Well, welcome in, welcome in. We are at Wednesday. Hard to believe we're already halfway through the week, but what a week it's been. We have got so much we need to talk about. Of course, we need to start with the news that, quite frankly, broke college football Twitter yesterday, and that's Caden Proctor returning to Alabama and how it proves something I've been trying to say for so long. Nick Saban just tried to say it. And so far, it's fallen on deaf ears, but we're going to break it all down. We also need to look ahead. We need to talk about what Caden Proctor means to this Alabama team. We need to talk about recruiting. We need to talk about spring practice. You already know, jam-packed show. Good morning, everybody in the undefeated. Brian, Marquita, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place this morning because I just ran back in here getting my dog from outside as she tried to make the great escape. We have Cynthia. We have Chris, Vanna. Happy you're all in here. Rich, Dexter, Travelpreneur. Man, we got the whole crew in here. Todd in here. Anita in here. Big Bama's in here. Kevin, Jor. Jor says, sounds like OSU Collective may have ponied up to get Downs to stay. What a wild time we're in, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolute wild time we're in college football. Rodney, happy you're here this morning. Rocket, Nicole, Caleb, Cynthia, Glenn, happy you're all in here. Jeremy, multiple transfers to watch for, but yes, Downs is to be watched to see his updated social media profiles, removing OSU. Jeremy, and I can only speak to his Instagram. I don't believe his Instagram ever had Ohio State a part of it, because I remember when he first transferred there were Ohio State people asking, when is he going to put the Ohio State stuff in his bio? And it never came. Now that's just speaking about the Instagram, right? I don't think that the Instagram ever had anything Ohio State. Now I'm not speaking pictures or anything. He never had it. Yeah, I was about to say he never had it. He never had the Ohio State stuff in his, at least, Instagram profile. Now, once again, that means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. He could be, who knows, right? If you asked me a week ago, I would have said no. But if you asked me a week ago if I thought Caden Proctor was going to be coming back to Bama, I would have said no as well. So what do I know right now? We're all along for the ride, right? We're all along for the ride. We're just here to enjoy it. What a lot to talk about. Jermaine says money's not going to keep him this time. Ty, this is what Evan Stewart said. He was promised money that never showed up. That's why he left A&M. 100%. 100%. And he wasn't the only person to say that. In fact, there was a linebacker that went to A&M. I don't know where he's at now. But whenever he was in high school, he came from Pilot Point. And you see me pointing, that's where Pilot Point is. For those of you, I'm in Denton, Texas. Pilot Point is a hop, skip, and a jump away. I remember watching him play. He was kind of the first of that huge A&M class, the record-breaking one, to transfer. And when he did, he had some things to say. He's talking about how you're promised one thing and not getting another. So this isn't new, and you're right. Evan Stewart said it as well. He wasn't the only one. There were a few guys from that A&M class to say the same thing. Interesting. Todd says, I've been told to watch Earl Little Jr. Like I said, man, at this point, I don't know what's up. I don't know what's down. Everything is fair game at this point. Who knows? Nick Saban may have a year left of eligibility, and he might fly out there at defensive back and start getting his name up there for first round status next year. I don't know, but we're going to have a great time while doing it. Rodney says, hey, Ty, what's your take on Ryan Day blamed Seth Snap issues on Jalen Milroe? Listen, I'm no quarterback guru, right? I've said this time and time again. I am a student of the game. And I fully own that. I am someone who is learning the game of football, who has unbelievable access to not only all 22, but also access to former players. And so I'm constantly trying to learn. That being said, Rodney, it seemed to be one of the more ridiculous things I've heard, because, like, what do you mean the quarterback's cadence affected the snap? Jalen Milroe wasn't doing 360 no scopes back there. He was standing saying, Hut, give me the darn football. Like that. And listen, I never played center in any serious capacity. When I was in middle school, my best friend broke his arm. Coach looked at all of us and said, "We need a center." I said, "Well, someone's got to do it, so it'll be me." So I snapped the ball terribly, might I add. But them changing the quarterback never affected anything for me. Now, granted, I know I'm giving you all the worst example possible. There's no equating middle school football with college football, and in no way, shape, or form am I attempting to do so. In no way, shape, or form am I attempting to compare those experiences. I want that to be known. But I am only looking back on my experience thinking I needed to get the ball from point A to point B. It didn't matter who was back there. It didn't matter if Joe Namath was back there, if Joe Montana, Steve Young, and the whole crew was back there. You still had to get the ball from point A to point B. That's why when he said it, I was like, man, maybe I don't know as much as I think. I can imagine that certain things are different, right? Like, here's what I mean. Snapping to Bryce Young, who's shorter than Jalen Milroe, I can imagine that's different. But do I think that it's different enough for snaps to be rolling on the ground? No, no. And maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I don't know enough. But that didn't seem to add up to me. One thing they have in common is that they would have gotten any middle school center benched. I was not benched. Granted, they didn't have another option, but let the record show I was not benched. Thank you for that hacker music. Love that. Caitlin, thank you for being in here. Thank you for being in here. Do you like apples? You know what's crazy? I'm indifferent to apples. You know what I mean? Like, they're there. That's not my favorite fruit, but they're apples. Listen, I think it was some BS. But I always try and be honest with all of you, because every one of you, Kyle, T, shout out to them in the background, but every one of you in the undefeated, every one of you that has supported me on this platform, that has supported this platform or supported my platform, you allow me to attempt to live out my dream and do this. So I always want to be as honest as possible with everybody that has supported me. That way we're all operating on the same playing field and we can just go from there, right? But that being said, as much as I will claim I don't know everything about college football, I don't understand that one. Kevin, I did not see your question, my man. Feel free to spam that bad boy again. You know I don't mind. You know I don't mind that one bit. My apologies for missing it. But the undefeated is being undefeated this morning. Ben Seth having to call out a lot more defensive linemen since Milroe wasn't at that part. Maybe it affected his snapping. And see, this is what I meant when I said I'm not trying to compare the intricacies of playing middle school to because I didn't have to call out any coverages. You know what I mean? My job was, hey, get him the ball. And while I do acknowledge that can weigh on your mental, I don't quite understand. That's your job as a center. You know what I mean? That's your job as a center. Neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. Let's talk about Caden Proctor. And Kevin, I'm going to be on the lookout for that question, but feel free to drop it in there again. Feel free to drop it in there again. No doubt about it. Let's talk about Caden Proctor. Because to me, the craziest thing about the Caden Proctor situation isn't so much that it happened, though that in and of itself is crazy. In my opinion, the craziest thing about the situation is that it happened on the heels of Nick Saban warning everybody. College football is the wild, wild west. There are no guardrails. And this is the honest to God truth, ladies and gentlemen. Anti-DER affected, I fear it will. I don't know about that, William. I've been kind of out of the fold. Unfortunately, we had a death in the family. And so I've been a little bit out of the loop in terms of anything like that, William. But what I will do is I will look into it. I will research what that is, and we can go from there, and I can talk about it after that point. But I don't know about it right now, and I don't want to, run with something and give you all bad information. I don't know about that. Listen, like I said, guys, I will always respect all of you enough to tell you I don't know. Right? I will always respect all of you enough to say I don't know. Because I would rather be honest and say, hey, I'm not really sure about that. I'll look into it. And then we'll rock and roll from there. But I don't know the rule in and of itself right now. So once I do some research on it, once I do some reading on it, we absolutely will talk about that, William. I'll make a note of it to look into it this evening so we can bring that tomorrow. All right. Good to go. And Kevin, if be sure to send me that question again. Right. Loved all the hypocrites flipping their stances after the Proctor news. That's the craziest thing. Did Julian Lewis decommit from USC, or was that question from Bama football on YouTube just talk for the sake of saying words? EJ the 8th, new member. Thank you so much, EJ, for being a part of the family. It really does allow us to continue doing everything we're doing over here. Kyle has got a vision. I'm just truly blessed to be a part of that vision, to be a part of this process, and to be a part of all of your day, right? Great times. Yes, Lisa, it is Alabama Pro Day. But going back up to this right here, Julian Lewis, I believe, is still a member of the USC class. Now, that could be on shaky grounds, right? Like he could be committed, but is looking at moving elsewhere. So he's still committed, Kevin, but I will say this. He's committed to USC while taking several visits to Alabama. You know what I mean? Like you're committed, but a flip could be had. And I'm not just saying that Alabama could flip him. Any of the schools he's visiting could reasonably flip him. It's the name of the game, right? And then you look at the equation of who Alabama's quarterback coach will be, who the offensive minds are. And hats off to Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley has done a solid job with offenses. Smook and I kind of had a conversation yesterday about how, or not yesterday, the other day, about how do we view Lincoln Riley and his quarterbacks, where he's had such an incredible run of successful quarterbacks. But that being said, he's also had incredible quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like Caleb Williams was a superstar. Kyler Murray is the winningest athlete in Texas history. So we'll see. But what I can say is we know Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guru, and he does great stuff with the quarterbacks like Lincoln Riley does. So I don't think it's out of the question, out of the realm of possibility that Alabama is able to flip Juju Lewis. Why not? You have Shepard coaching wide receivers. You know that's going to be high action. And if you are Juju Lewis, I would look at what USC just went through with Caleb Williams, where Caleb Williams was attempting to be Superman and you were still coming up short, because football is a two-stage game. Really, it's multifaceted. But for simplicity's sake, you got offense, you got defense, of course, you got special teams. USC and Lincoln Riley have only ever concerned themselves. Really, Lincoln Riley has only ever concerned himself with one facet of football. All right, I saw this question right here. Philip says, so I do have a question. I just know you came to the channel today for the first time. What's this talk about Caleb Downs? Do you think it's real or you think it's fake? I have no idea, Philip. I think it's more likely that he probably stays at Ohio State. But like I said, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, do I think Caden Proctor's transferring back? My answer would have been, I don't think so, because this is kind of uncharted territory in college football. That being said, Caleb Downs still has a relationship with several members of the Alabama team. He's familiar with Alabama. He knows some of the coaches on staff. He knows some of the support staff. I know a lot of people are saying about the social media stuff where he's not. Movie says, so when there's truth behind him removing OSU from his bio, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it ever was there, Movies. Don't get me wrong. For those of you that have been around my channel, Kevin, I know you know this. Hacker, I know you know this. I was as high on Caleb Downs as any player since I've started covering college football. Nothing would make me happier than for him to transfer back. There's rumors that Downs came down for spring break just like Proctor did. Now that I think could be true. I just don't know what effect it will have. You know what I mean? I just have no idea what effect it will have. But it is something interesting, right? Like I am at a place now where a week ago I'd have been like, nah, I don't think he ever followed Ohio State movies. But like I said, I don't know about like his follows, but I do know everybody was talking about like, oh, he removed Ohio State from his bio. Ohio State was never in his bio. At least on Instagram. I can only speak to Instagram, but I can't, and I shouldn't say this. I don't know if he ever followed Ohio State. I don't know if he ever followed Ohio State. I misspoke a second ago. I meant to say it was never in his bio. But I don't know anymore, ladies and gentlemen. There are connections to Alabama, and given what just happened, who's to say? Who's to say? Well, let's go back to this Caden Proctor situation, right? Let's go back to this Caden Proctor situation. This comes on the heels of Nick Saban going to Congress and lobbying something has to happen. NIL, the transfer portal, has created a situation where there are no guardrails in college football. And understand this. That's a fact, Ty. You've been saying. When he was still like number 20 in the class, I was beating my fist on the table, John, being like, how is Caleb Downs not the number one player in the nation? By the way, technically Proctor's not in the portal yet. Yeah, I mean the portal doesn't open until the when does the portal open, Jor? Is it at the end of April? I need to check the dates. But yes, good point. And that's actually a very key point of clarification. Thank you very much for that, Jor, because that's true. And I do need to be a bit more aware when I speak on that. He has not entered the portal, but he will. Thank you, because that is a clear delineation. 4-1, April 15th. I thought it was April. Perfect. So I mean, he'll be here before you know it in terms of in the portal. He'll be here before you know it in terms of. So you guys in the undefeated are truly undefeated. I'm getting a string of 15s. This is why I love coming over here. This is therapy. Genuinely. Follow movies about Ohio State. I was like, how many of them are there? I don't know. Interesting little tidbit, though. I used to know one of the coaches at Ohio State, and not personally. When I say I know him, I only knew him because his brother was very close friends with my dad. They were both in the horse industry together. In fact, every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I would go over to his house, and he's a huge Ohio State fan. Season tickets, never misses anything. And so, yeah, I kind of always used to have an insight as to what was going on at Ohio State. He moved, I moved. It's been a long time. I'm not as active in that world as I once was, but it would be interesting to hit him up. Portal opening on tax day. Well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Probably the first time this has happened. John, I was thinking about this earlier. I don't know when something like this has happened. But kind of going back, right? Jill, thank you for being in here, my man, all the way from New York. I love New York, man. I love New York. I've always said this, Jill. Grandmother used to live, she passed last year, but I still have family up there just outside of Saratoga Springs, upstate New York. I love it up there, man. If I, looking way in the future, if I ever go to retire, that's going to be it. But let's talk about Caden Proctor, right? Nick Saban hit Capitol Hill, advocated for everybody to make changes. College football is in a precarious position. And stop me if I've said this before. How many times have, whenever we started talking about NIL, about the transfer portal, do I bring up NCAA versus Alston? For those of you that have been around my channel, I apologize, because this is like the 1,000th time you've heard about this case, but I keep bringing it to you for good reason. Because that was the case that finally made me raise my eyebrows and say, oh, they're really, really on borrowed time. Oh, they are in a bad way. Is the NCAA. Now, those of you who are sitting there wondering, Caden Proctor, aka the real Slim Shady. That's good. That's so good, Lawrence. I love that. This is one of the hard things about doing live streams is you guys give great comments. Like Jor, there was a while where Jor was kind of testing how to make me laugh. And there was like a week string where he was just hitting on what he knew would make me laugh and trying to get me to break. And he was very successful. He was very successful. But NCAA versus Alston, in my opinion, was groundbreaking, but it is not alone. We've talked about this before. You have House coming down in 2025. You have Johnson coming down in 2025. You have two other cases coming down, and I don't know if those dates are 2025. I know one of them is 2026. You got four major court cases. Four major court cases, all dealing with intricacies within the NCAA antitrust structure. Some of them dealing with back pay, others attacking the antitrust structure more on face value. And if you're sitting there wondering why the NCAA is doing nothing, my teachers always hated me for that. No, you were hyper successful, my man. It was like I had to really compose myself. And if I saw someone comment, there was a string, I'm not going to lie to you. If I saw someone comment and they had a J, I almost wouldn't read the comment until I got to like a breaking point. And then I could go look up because I knew. I was like, I'm going to break. He knows me. He knows how to get me. If you're asking yourself why the NCAA isn't doing anything right now, it's because they're acting out of self-preservation. And I understand that sounds like the craziest thing you've ever heard. The NCAA is doing nothing so that they can self-preserve? Yes. And let me explain. The NCAA is terrified of judicial action right now. They are terrified of it. The reason why I continue bringing you NCAA versus Alston is because it exposed something that whenever it happened, I have never been able to get it out of my head. NCAA versus Alston happens. Justice Kavanaugh states the NCAA's antitrust structure is inherently illegal. You cannot have a structure like that that bases its theory on not paying your workers a fair market wage off of the theory that you don't have to pay your workers a fair market wage. 10 days later, 10 days later, 10 days later, NIL came down. Let that marinate for a second. I want you to think about whatever industry you do. I want you to try and equate what I just said to that industry one more time now. Matt Farms, my guy, heard Blaze trashed your computer setup. I wish I could blame Blaze. It was actually my fuzzy dog, Maya. She got a little excited. I said, "Do you want to go outside for a walk?" And that was my mistake. I said walk. She ran out the door, had my cable like right there, and yanked my laptop right off the table and shattered the screen on Friday. I had to go get it replaced this weekend. We're rocking and rolling now. But yes, Matt, thank you for that. I wish it was Blaze. That scoundrel. I encourage y'all to watch Friends about Proctor leaving. I'm dying. It's funny. It's funny. But I'm going to drive home this point one more time. And genuinely, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's something that I've said before, but I really want you all to think about this. Think about what the NCAA is. A billion-dollar industry. What it means, how many TV contracts there are, how many NIL deals, how many athletes. And I want you to equate this to something in your life. The NCAA was told your structure is illegal. 10 days later, they roll out NIL with no guardrails. I've said this time and time again. Florida being forthright, thinking that they were looking into the future, and the state of Alabama both passed legislation trying to enact NIL laws before NIL was ever passed. The fact that they were trying to be proactive in the situation actually handcuffed them. Any state that passed any NIL legislation before that 10 days after NCAA versus Alston, they were handcuffed because the NCAA did nothing. They just basically said, here's NIL, do with it what you will. And that to me is incredible. That to me is unconscionable. Should be. There's a picture I'm going to share later, but yeah, it would be crazy. It would be crazy. It's so funny. What the NCAA did is unconscionable to me. How you could have a multi-million, billion-dollar industry and be that flippant with it. It has never sat right with me. And that's why I always bring it to your attention, because I do believe it needs to be talked about. These are mistakes that could have been avoided, but greed kept them from making these decisions. And here we are. So Nick Saban goes to Capitol Hill. And the part that drove me up a wall, as it drove all of you up a wall, is then going on social media and seeing everybody say, oh, Nick Saban's just crying crocodile tears because he couldn't adapt. I said this in a video I published this morning talking about Caden Proctor. After you get done watching me and Merrill here, be sure to go check that out over on Around the Table Sports, where we broke down this whole situation. But even outside of that, one of the things I kept saying was that the people don't have a problem with the message. They have a problem with the messenger. People don't have a problem with what Nick Saban's saying. They have a problem with who's saying it. They can't stand that the man who dominated college football at a rate that, quite frankly, we haven't seen, is now the guy that could be on the forefront of helping save our game. They don't disagree with the message, ladies and gentlemen. They don't. They disagree with the messenger so much that they're willing to hurt their own bottom line to pretend like what Nick Saban said isn't true. And the thing that drives me up a wall is if we were to go look at some of those same Twitter accounts, their tweet history, their reply history, their like history, guess what they would have been doing? Tweeting, talking, liking the same sentiments that Nick Saban echoed that day. But it's not good enough because of who the messenger was. Now, coming from the background I come from, that really drives me up a wall, because I have always been taught that one of the greatest assets we have is discourse. I'm frozen? Yeah, well, let's see if I can't do this. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if this works. Your feed has frozen. Well, this is incredibly unfortunate. All right, let's see if we can't get it now. Can y'all hear me? I apologize. I don't exactly know what's happening. I don't exactly know what's happening right now. We got a black screen. At least we can hear you. Yeah, I'm gonna coordinate with Merrill. Hope I can get him in here a little bit earlier, and then we can. There's a pretty decent freeze frame if that's any consolation. Look, I tried to set it up to where y'all could hear me. We can hear but not see. Blackout. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen. We're going to do the best we can. I'm going to get with Merrill, but we're going to keep on going. We're going to keep on going. The party doesn't stop. We could hear you now. No picture. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was frozen on my end, but I didn't know if it was frozen on y'all's. It is what it is, though. It is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and get with Merrill, and we'll try and pivot and adjust. Just put up your best picture, Ty. Well, unfortunately, Chief, I'm not a very photogenic person. But continuing on to this conversation, right? They didn't disagree with Nick Saban's message. They disagreed with the messenger. Now, there are accounts out there. It's black. Yeah, Brian, we're having some technical difficulties right now in terms of my camera. We're going to try and get Merrill in here. And here we go. Here we go. Merrill, give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. All right. So for whatever reason, my camera has officially just like blacked out. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the studio, and I'm going to come right back in. But if you want to pick up where I was ranting and raving about Nick Saban on Capitol Hill and how it drives me up a wall that now everybody's acting like Hayden
Yeah.
Proctor situation. Oh, this is so bad for college football. Merrill, what was Nick Saban saying to everybody? And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I'm going to come right back in. I will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for rocking with me.
I got you, Ty. No worries, man. Hey, that's what we do, right? Help our teammates out. We run into situations, we run into problems, and boom, we help each other out. That's why I think Hayden Proctor is going to be successful. I went on this last night. What is up, everybody? Good morning, Bama football on YouTube, undefeated chat. Good morning, fam. You guys are so awesome. Like, what's up? Happy to jump in here early. Jump on here with Ty. Like we all know, Roundtable Sports, amazing. And again, he's hitting on some really good points right now, especially with Nick Saban. And what happened? Like, it's so funny. If you guys haven't seen on Twitter, and I don't know if Ty brought this part up, is like Kristen is going off. Like his daughter is just popping off at and she always does some funny stuff, right, man? Like I love the way her approach is. And Ty is just Ty's back. We're good. But hey, I was just saying, man, like how Kristen is popping off at everybody.
So funny. It
is so funny. It cracks me up, dude. Like, and good for her. She has that right. In the end of the day, like she's just as much part of the program as her pops is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and good for her. Like, defend your dad, 100%. Like, respect that. Like what he's done, 100% respect that. And so it's crazy though right now from your what you just were saying though, Ty, is like Nick Saban comes in, he says like these things around development, around like this is going to destroy teams, and he's not saying it out of like a cocky way. You know what I'm saying? He's not saying that out of arrogance, even though he knows the fact that in the end, it definitely benefits like it benefits the SEC. It benefits some teams in the Big Ten. Some.
There are haves in college football and there are have-nots. And the biggest lie that was sold, in my opinion, is NIL with no guardrails and the transfer portal with no guardrails was going to do more for the have-nots than it was going to do for the haves. That was disingenuous. Like, it makes no sense. Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, they're eating. They point. Merrill, think about it like this, my man. A few years ago, you had Trey Amos out at Louisiana. Yeah. Best player on their team. Nick Saban just points and says, come on. And he's there. People are getting poached for the haves. The biggest lie we were sold is the NIL and the transfer portal would do more for the have-nots than the haves. I'm sorry.
It's the truth though, man. 100%. Hey, Lynn, I'm going to highlight this real quick. Lynn just said something. Merrill, I love your shirt. Y'all, you're right. This is a group forged, Navy SEALs. There's a little bit of a background there, but we're not going into that. But anyways, my point is, thank you, Lynn. Really appreciate that. And shout out to all those in the military who do any sort of service, any sort of our first responders, anybody out there helping the community. At the end of the day, we love it. But especially those who have served, we appreciate you very much. So that's why I want to give that shout out. But again, it's pretty wild to know like how much this benefits, man, like other people. You know what I'm saying? Like it benefits like these superior teams. And I hate saying like, cause I don't want to go but like, I'm trying to give a good comparison here. Doesn't come across as an asshole, right? You know what I mean? Like you have Alabama, you got Alabama, you got, I'm not even going to say you got like LSU, you got Georgia, you got these really strong teams, okay, that or have that history of having strong teams.
And you got Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State's not bad, but like, is it going to benefit them? Or let's just jump over. Is it going to benefit ASU, Arizona State? How about Oregon State now? Oregon State's going to get demolished. How many guys want to go to Corvallis? Let's be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not the case. Like, so these guys, maybe you get some opportunities to some dudes who don't get ranked or have like no stars or 2 stars, or I don't even think they go below 3. So, you know what I mean? Like, maybe those guys get some opportunities, and I respect that. And you get stars, guys that come out of there. There's a lot of sleepers out here. Not everybody can be a 5-star. The way the system plays, there is only a certain amount of 5 stars awarded per year. You cannot just blow up the rivals 100 or on threes, top 300 with half of them being 5 stars, even though, I would say, a quarter minimum deserve it. Right. So, that's the thing about it is like you get it, this whole like portal in what Nick Saban's trying to bring across is the fact that you have to fix some of these things in order to even out the playing field. And he just wants to see guys stick it out and develop, and from there just do the best they can for their team that they committed to. You know what I mean? Instead of doing like pay for play. Because I think a lot of this stuff too, what's kind of funny is all this talk right now that we're hearing, right? And I think we're going to see this skyrocket in this portal because it's being recognized now with what Nick Saban said. What if Caleb Downs rumors are all done just for him to get more money by a collective? Not saying he would do that, but what if he has an agent in the background that says, hey, let's just spark this? Because that's what PR is. That's public relations right there. That's when you got an agent who knows how to really work it, right? I mean, ooh, man, you can skyrocket your value really quick. You know what I mean?
Well, Jimmy Sexton.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you look at the way the Alabama coaching search went. How many coaches never even got a call from anybody at Alabama, but they were renegotiating a contract to make $4 million more a year? This is the system we live in, ladies and gentlemen. And Merrill, that's a great point. What stops anybody in college football from putting out rumors out there just to increase their leverage? Jordan Addison a few years ago, right? I mean, you started to hear about, some of these NIL deals that he could be getting. What if that was a play to try and get more money from Pitt, but it didn't end up working? And so then he was like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm going to get a bag from USC or I'm going to get a bigger bag from Pitt. I win either way.
That's a great point, man. Like, in the end of the day, like, and that sucks. I'm happy that the guys get paid. I believe in that. I mean, there's stuff that happens anyways before NIL stuff. I'll say that for sure. But I do believe in like that pay. Now, for it to be so crazy, I guess, like as far as how all these things work, you can offer this kid this much money or this kid this much money, and in that playing ground, I think you need to be able to have to earn that and actually be playing in the game instead of in the recruiting field. That's where I think you got to show that you deserve, maybe you get that offer from like ads or promos, right, for yourself. But as far as like a college, I think like from a school standpoint, everybody gets an equal pay. But now the pay for play thing is just, that's the part where I don't think it's good for sport. And I don't think it's good for any of these young guys coming out of high school. Like, you know how many people are trying to influence their decision right now with money? And
so
here's
one of the things I've often wondered, and I'd like to float this to you as a question.
Yeah.
Do you believe that this is something that can be fixed on its own? And what I mean when I say that, do you believe that the free market could correct? I'll give you an example. Nico Iamaleava over at Tennessee, right? He was the Athletic published article a few years ago. He was the guy that was that $7 million NIL deal. That was the guy. Well, I think he's going to be an absolute star. He was my favorite quarterback from that class. I really wanted Alabama to get him. But what if in a world, Jake, he sucks? Like, what if in a world he's not good? I think he will be. I'm not saying if anybody's just coming in here, do not take, the Bama people say Nico. That's not what we're saying. We both, I think, would expect Nico to be great. My question is, take away the name Nico. You pay a high school kid $1 million. What happens if he's just not good?
I know. And that's a great point. I mean, how long is that risk willing to be taken? From a standpoint of like, I kind of talked about this a little bit last night, you're not only, let's say you go play major college football. And so I talked about this with Caden Proctor for all those who tuned in. There was a lot of stuff last night, but I talked about like guys who are like 5 stars who don't pan out, right? There's a lot of expectations for them. They mentally get in their own heads. They don't pan out. They end up leaving or something happens and they fizzle out. Their career kind of just goes away and someone else replaces them, right? Who maybe we didn't expect, but we expected this guy to be one of the best. It happens. Quarterback is one of those positions that happens all the time. We just maybe don't see it as often due to the fact, or like hear about it as often due to the fact that there's somebody always replacing somebody, even in that depth chart. Maybe they haven't started yet, like that very well could be the case. In the weirdest way, it could happen to Alabama right now with the quarterbacks we have in the room. Something could happen there. Now, I don't think that will be the case, but it could be. You know what I mean? Like you never know. They could bring in a dude, and we all were high on this guy or that guy, and they just don't pan out, and they were a 5-star. So what I'm saying with that is you take this risk on a kid, and not only are you taking this risk, but you're putting even more pressure than just performing normally at like a high level on media, social media. You're being watched by everybody, but now you're saying we're paying you to do this. You have no idea what that means yet because you haven't had a full-time job, but we're paying you to do this. This is a huge responsibility. And yes, all you've had to do is go to camp and run around and get pictures taken and show off your skills. You haven't had to like grind it out at McDonald's or sweep a gym floor, or you know what I mean? And some guys have. I don't want to take that away from them. Some guys actually do work full-time jobs. I know I did when I was in high school, right? But there's a lot of guys also who don't, and who are, studs, and they're getting paid a lot of money. So now you're getting a whole bunch of pressure. How do you handle that pressure? Right? Like, does that imposter syndrome sink in? And then do you just lose a whole bunch of money? Like, you're right. So how does it correct itself? Does that end up being the case that we start to see that happen more and more? That's the hard part, man. I was like, we don't know. Like, I mean, it's just frustrating because I feel like it makes the sport taper off, and not be as, I don't know, not have as much integrity almost,
The crazy thing? If only there were other professional, because let's be honest, college football, amateur, right? Like, if only there were other sports that we could look to model to see how they try and create an equitable balance while still compensating the athletes within them. Merrill, if only something like that, maybe it would be named the NFL. I don't know. I'm real good with names. So maybe something comes up called the NFL where they have revenue sharing, and you can still have the interest of fairness while people are being, who knows though? I'm an idealist. I've always been an idealist. We'll see. I did want to say this right here, though. This is hilarious, Merrill. You're going to love this. Okay. So this is a tweet that you've probably seen some variation of it, but man, Iowa native Caden Proctor commits to Iowa, flips to Bama in high school, plays a year, and then enters the transfer portal. Commits to Iowa around the same time. The Swarm fundraises $100,000. Collects NIL money, and then re-enters the portal, doesn't have to pay Iowa NIL back. My man just got a bag and dipped. And I got to give credit. Who was it? Who was it that said this? It was a Twitter account. I got to give credit where it came from. I think it was someone I follow on Twitter, Ben. Okay. And Ben had a tweet the other day that's going viral, and he was like, Caden Proctor just transferred to Iowa to watch Caitlin Clark ball and then come back. And I was like, that's so
just want to see how she's doing.
That's so good.
Wow. But it's crazy. That's crazy to me, man. I mean, hey, I guess if you know how to work the system, then, and you're making some money that way, then I guess good for you. I don't know if I would feel good about doing that myself, but you know what I mean? It's like, but shoot, dude.
I would say I wouldn't, but I've also never seen $100,000 staring me in the face. I don't know.
I mean, that's an easy.
Know what I would do.
You know how many
McDoubles? You know how many McDoubles? I could stream all of you good people on a throne of McDoubles and continue eating them, and not ever have to worry about the integrity of my throne of McDoubles. Yeah. If you didn't know, I quite like McDoubles.
Oh, yeah. Hey, but McDoubles. See, I used to like the McDonald's, man, but I can't do that anymore. I don't.
See, I can't
Just
either. I'm getting up there, and it's
yeah,
you realize that this is barely qualifying as food, but it's delicious, barely qualifying as food, right? Like it
yeah.
is. Jake, as I have you here,
Uh-huh.
and listen, if you would like to, I know you have a segment coming up. If you
No,
need to
no, no.
go,
Ty.
but here's what we can do. I can stay for 30 minutes into your segment. That way we can kind of work off
Oh,
of each
dude,
other, right?
let's hang. I think everybody
Let's do it.
enjoys it. I think chat enjoys it. I mean, we got a lot of people in here. Make sure you hit those thumbs up, subscribe for
Boy.
us. You know what I'm saying? Like, become a fan funder too. Like, if you guys you want to see those exclusive videos that get put out and more content as we roll through this season, because this week is a big, I would say, the start of it. Really, all.
Yeah, you said that
Because
the other day.
yeah, installation week, man. And we can talk a little bit about that too, Ty, because that will be interesting to
Got
hear
to.
about how the defense installs and how the offense is going to install. I mean, it's going to be exciting. But to get back at you with this other thing too is like what I do respect about what Alabama is doing with the NIL and all these things is I respect the fact that like Courtney Morgan sees this process it's a little bit like the way we talked about as far as, hey, we all want you to be paid. Okay. We respect that you guys want to be paid. But Courtney says this, and I respect this a lot, is he says, if you are a freshman and you have not seen a down of college football, like we are not going to pay you more than a dude who is here working his butt off every day. It just doesn't work like that. And I respect that because there does need to be some sort of hierarchy of showing, again, hierarchy of accountability, right? Yeah. And Kareem, you hit this on the point, and I'll let you get at that, Ty.
I think he hit the nail on the head. Josh asked him, sorry, I know it's probably been talked about. Josh, never apologize for asking a
Yeah, man.
question. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
we understand life comes first. We're incredibly happy that you're giving us any time. I completely get it. You might have been in here for the first 15 minutes. You got to go and do something, and now you're coming
Yep.
back. And you want to know because time is valuable. Has this never apologize for asking a question? You're not going to, I'm here to give you guys information. That's what I love to do. But is Caleb Downs legitimately coming back? Josh asks. I didn't think Caden Proctor was coming back, but what I will say is I think Caleb Downs is just a lot of smoke and more
Mm-hmm.
trolling. But
Yeah.
that being said, I don't know what's up and what's down anymore in college football. So what do I
Mm-hmm.
know?
No, I mean, that's a good point. Like, as far as it's so funny because we could sit here all day and predict these things, right? And we see you guys popping in here. You know what I'm saying? Lions Pride, what's going on? Larry Large, one time for Courtney Morgan. That's right, my dog. That dude's the man. Love Courtney Morgan. I think
Great kid.
he is an amazing asset to this program anywhere, honestly. But yeah, like it's funny because how we do not know anymore just due to how volatile everything has now become. And you add social media to the picture of money, that you can throw out anything you want today, and within an hour could go viral, and it's not even close to being the truth. I mean, it happens all the time. People twist people's words. You say the smallest thing. Granted, it's funny that because I heard you talk about like the Ryan Day thing earlier with the snap stuff. It's funny that Ryan
Please talk to me about
addresses
that.
that.
You're a player.
Yeah, like why would Ryan seems to address a lot of things that come out in the media outside of like just normal everyday like media type of questions, and he addresses them in these almost indirect ways until he gets pissed off, like he did at Pat Mahaffey, right, in the impression of Lou Holtz. And that was hilarious. Oh my God, that was so funny. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
In front of
The Lou Holtz
touchdown
impression.
Jesus.
Yes, dude. And Ryan Day legitimately gets pissed off, right? Like legitimately pissed off during that whole like interaction with a fake Lou Holtz. Okay, dude, how do you let stuff get to you at that level? Like, come on, man. Like,
Okay,
dude, whoa.
I gotta ask you this, right? Because
Uh-huh.
and I gave the worst example, and I'm owning that it was the worst example, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard my best friend in middle school. He broke his arm. We were in the
Okay,
middle
yeah,
of a
yeah.
football game, and the coach looks
Mm-hmm.
around and he says, "We don't have another center." So
Yeah.
you got to bite the bullet and just
Mm-hmm.
be that guy. At the time, was the left tackle, but I was like, whatever. Nobody. I was the oldest. I was in the 8th grade. It was middle
Yeah.
school. I was like, it's time to step up and be, a leader for the group. So I was like, forget
Mhm.
it. I'll do it. Whatever. It's going to be bad, but somebody's got to do it. And so I cannot equate my experience because you don't have to call out defenses. You don't have to do any of that. But Jake, you're snapping the ball from point A to point B. It doesn't matter who's back there. The ball has
No.
to get from point A to point B. So when he was like quarterback cadence affected it, I was like, what are you talking about? You could put a net back there and the result has to be the same. It has to get there. What are we doing?
100. And that's the thing. That's an interesting thing to comment about, because if you're going to comment about quarterback cadence, we're not talking like we have to dissect that,
What is he doing?
because it's
360 no scopes back there? Is that his
I,
quarterback cadence? What are we doing?
yeah, like come on, man, like 100%. Now, here's the only point where he could say the quarterback cadence, right? This whole and Dwight, you kind of hit this one. I was kind of going into this, but where the quarterback cadence could affect it is if he hears like a clap, or he hears something similar, and he snaps it back, and the quarterback's not ready, but the ball is still going directly to where the quarterback's supposed to catch it, right? How did that the cadence doesn't affect the height or the how far or the direction of where the ball goes. That's the point that needs to be made. He just says that, and he doesn't think about, well, hold on, there's like a logistics around that. Even though it seems so simple, there's actually logistics around it. So what you did is just made that guy look like, you just made an excuse and make him look even worse. Like that's terrible. Don't make excuses. That's not part of accountability. You're at Ohio State. You're the head coach. Don't make excuses. That's a weird way to go about making an excuse, and that's what I think it was.
I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
It's because there's no coach in college football that has more pressure on them than is.
Oh God.
If they lose to Michigan after Michigan just lost everybody and Harbaugh, he's done. And that's so crazy to think about when we're talking about a coach with the win-loss record that Ryan Day has. Because if I wasn't to give you names or universities, if I was just to say Coach A has a record of this, Coach B has a record of this. If I gave you Ryan Day's record, you'd be like, you're crazy for saying he could be on the hot seat. You're absolutely beside your mind. And you would be well justified in saying that, but that's not the world we live in. I think that he has more pressure than any coach in all of college football. And so that's kind of what he's doing. Now, I did want to Ty, I'm part of the collective at Bama. We have meetings this week, but I'm going to tell you, if my money went to a player to transfer in, I'd be out. And you know what, Lynn, as much as I would want to tell you, like, nah, man, that's, you got to keep with it. I don't know that I blame you. I'm going to be very real. As much as like as much as my first reaction is, if I was in that position, I'd be done as well. I did want to get to 2 comments because Chance said something that made me laugh. He said, you had to still have that baby fat, bro, because you a small guy, Ty. I'm 5'11".
Chance.
Well, no, he's not wrong. Right?
Hey, I can't tell it through the camera. I don't know.
I'm 5'11", all of 175 pounds. But this goes back to something Jason said when he said, Ty, I love you. You get $100,000 and your first thought is McDonald's. I was grotesque. Okay.
I like it, man.
I was grotesque. You don't want to give me money. I'm the type of person you don't want to give me money because I am going to make a McDoubles throne and I will go back to being grotesque. So no love lost, Chance. You're right. It was baby fat and it was grotesque, but we grew out of that and here we are. And here we are.
You look good, Ty. You look good. I think you look great. I do. I mean, I don't know. I never played offensive line, like, so that was the thing is it's funny because I was pretty skinny growing up, and then I I think my junior year, that's when I hit like 215. I went from like 175 as a freshman playing cornerback, like slot wide receiver, to junior year I was like 256, 6'2", like 215. And I played at like 6'3", like 225, 220.
You wanna know what's crazy?
And so nuts, huh?
I was 5'6" or 7" in the 3rd grade.
Whoa.
I grew
dude
super tall and I haven't grown that much since about the 4th grade. Like, I towered over everybody so much that all the doctors were like, this dude's going to be 6'7". Like, this is, and then it just stopped. They knew, they knew. Like I said, you don't want to give me money. They knew. They were looking out for me, right? They were looking out for me when they were like, nah, we got to make you a short king. Cause if you're 6'7", it's not going to be good for anybody. So.
Dude, that would have been amazing though, man. 6'7", they're just ready to roll, be an offensive tackle somewhere, man. That would have been the way to go. You know,
haven't grown much since then. I was huge, and here we are, right? It sucks.
Yeah.
But this is where we are. You know, Jake, as we're here, we've talked a lot about the implications of what Nick Saban said. We've talked a lot about the craziness of college football.
Yeah.
Let's focus in on what Caden Proctor means, because you talked about installation. And I feel that this is a conversation that can be had simultaneously.
Yes.
The biggest question Alabama had on offense was offensive line. Now, granted, I don't think you can name me 5 better interiors in all of college football than the offensive line, or than Alabama's. Brailsford,
right,
Booker, and Roberts. I don't think you can give me 3 better interiors.
Yeah.
Caden Proctor answers a question, ladies and gentlemen. He instantly answers a question. And for anybody that says he struggled last year, this would be what I would say. I think the entire offensive line was too big last year. I think that asking an 18-year-old kid to come in and play at, what was he, 375, as you're going up against a 4th-year edge rusher from how is that conducive to success?
It's not, we discussed this, and I got a lot of heat for saying this. You know what I'm saying? In our video, there was a lot of, probably maybe 1 or 2 guys that posted about 10 comments in the YouTube section of the video when you and me did that video on O-line, right? But I brought up like guys getting to a comfortable playing weight and maybe dropping some pounds so they can move better. It's so funny because as I say that, and then there comes out an article and Coach Cap actually talks about that, and so does Sheridan, which I'm like, come on, it's like, I'm not saying these things because I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I say these things because I actually know. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually know what guys look like, how they feel, what you're doing, like how your body reacts to certain things when you're in this sort of position, or the way you feel when you're this way or this way. Like all this stuff impacts your playing ability. I think these guys are in a really, it was talked about as far as the work they put in. And I see Miss Ebony in here. What's up? How you doing, Miss Ebony? What's going on? But you know, you see these guys from a standpoint of what the work they put in. They got down into it's talked about that they feel more athletic. They lost a little bit of weight. They said they weren't trying to, you know, make them be at this specific weight. It's not wrestling, right? You don't need to qualify this. They're just saying get somewhere where you feel good, you can move and bend. That bend is real important in that athleticism. And you know what? Here's the next part of it. It also makes sure from an injury standpoint. True. Injury, huge. So you talk about these guys, how athletic that interior is. And now I think we are in a full spot with the competition going on between Brockmeyer, right, and Brailsford. Pretty cool to hear. I'm all about competition. And so with Brockmeyer and Brailsford going at it and people saying, hey, this is awesome. Like these 2 guys are competing. And I give a huge shout out to Brockmeyer to come in there and go, because you know he didn't get the love as soon as Brailsford signs on. And Parker's amazing. Parker, I'm a huge fan of Parker. You know what I mean? Where Parker comes from, he didn't get very much love coming out of high school with their recruiting. The dude's a workhorse, extremely strong and extremely smart, and a hell of a communicator. So for Brockmeyer to have to match up against this dude who's a freshman All-American, and he's putting in his work, it just goes to show like these guys are out there working hard, and they want to be that unit. They want to be those Joe Moore award-winning line. I think they truly actually believe that. Like I bet you that is the number 1 goal for them, is that they go out and just wipe everyone off the face of the earth in college football when they step out in the field. Like that unit as one. You know what I'm saying? Just forged. But I mean, like they're after it. Like that's where it's at. Like, and with Caden coming in, I mean, what is your thoughts with Caden coming in? I gave a huge breakdown last night, and I'll talk a little bit about it too. If once you give me something, I just want to hear what you think, Ty, on Caden, like his integration into that.
One, I think that Dexter also hits the nail on the head. Most of all, Proctor gives us depth. Now, listen, I'm excited about the future of Alston and Wilkin Formby, Miles McVeigh.
Yep.
But they didn't have experience.
I know.
They didn't have experience.
Yeah.
And simply put, Proctor does. Now, if in this new system, he isn't the foregone conclusion, that's not a bad thing. Competition is good. Pressure makes diamonds, right? Having that depth is huge. But also, the biggest thing to me, how did the team react? At the point where they're having him on spring break with them, it showed that, hey, even though you weren't here, you're still a part of the family.
Yeah.
I froze up again, didn't I?
You did. Yeah, you did.
So it's whenever
so funny, there's a bubble.
Whenever these likes come in, that's every time it happens.
Oh, is it the little thing on the side where people like slap the little it's like a heart? I don't. That's what I think it is. And then I'll get at this real quick because Lynn, you just made a point. Let me see where you're at on this. I like when Lynn throws some stuff out here. Yeah, you have some good facts. Merrill, when I played in the early 80s, okay, I got you, Ty. Merrill, when I played in the early 80s, we had an offensive lineman who started weight was 250 and went to play in the NFL. Kids today are huge. No, I mean 100%, man. Like they are huge. Guys are gigantic. It's crazy. I mean, back to even when I was playing, like I'm 6'3", 220 playing safety. But not only that, but I mean, another guy who I thought was just an animal, and you guys will remember this dude is Reuben Foster. That kid coming out of high school was the craziest looking athlete I've ever seen as far as just overall athletic ability. I mean, and then, I mean, you look at now today though, like right now, you look at the guys coming in the 2024 class who are here. Like a lot of these dudes, they could step on just about any roster and start. You know what I mean? Look at Noah. Noah's another pretty prime example of like this athleticism, this freakish athleticism from a standpoint, Noah Carter, because you see his size, his speed, his quickness. I mean, and then he's playing every position all over the field. Phenomenal athletes. So these guys have it's dramatically improved and dramatically, I guess, from an evolution standpoint, the athletes just keep getting bigger, stronger, faster. And I love it. But I also think like there is a point, especially with offensive line, even defensive line, right? Those positions can sometimes, people are like, well, the bigger the better. Yeah. No, not necessarily. Hold on.
How big is Aaron Donald?
Yeah, exactly. I honestly, I think he's what, 6'1", 6'1".
His footwork in combination with his handwork. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know much, but I will tell you this right here. Go back and watch Aaron Donald highlights. Watch how if he's making 4 moves, it's happening in 2 moves. What I mean is the right hand is moving with the right foot. So technically that's 2 different moves. It's happening in one stage. So he's beating people in 2 moves because everything is happening at the same time. Beautiful to watch. Beautiful. Quinnen Williams was the same way.
Oh yeah. Quinnen Williams the same way. If you get these guys right who have that size, who can move, and they feel good in their body, like moving and feeling athletic, that's what's important. We're not talking like it's funny when people bring up like this weight factor. Now I will say for Caden, I think as a freshman coming in, he still has a lot of like body maturity. He has to go through. You see it. I mean, I like I said, I did training for a long time. You got to learn a lot about the body when you're playing at like a high level football, right? But also when you're coaching and you're working with young kids and training just people in general, right? And so you look at someone's body, you can tell like where they've matured and where they haven't matured, right? And for young guys especially, Caden, he's big. He's super. I think he's an amazing athlete, but I think he just hadn't hit that maturity yet. I think you give him another, maybe we'll see what happens this year, but even next year, I think we're going to see that he's just going to get more and more athletic. Again, as long as you put the work in, you know what I mean? Like you have to put the work in. And that's what I hit on last night is how does this team accept him back? What do the coaches say? You know what I'm saying? Like that's a big part of it, you know?
Yeah, I think getting him back is a big win for Alabama. It goes to answer a question. And in my opinion, anytime you can answer questions, you're already moving in the right direction. Even if that answer is we've created unbelievable competition at the tackle position, you've already answered a question. You're creating and cultivating in an environment that is going to be conducive to success for whoever gets that position. I think that this is a big move. Really excited about it. But Merrill, I want you to go in depth, right? Because we're on the 10 o'clock hour, so we're technically on your time.
Hey, man.
I want you to go in depth about why this week is so big, because you've been talking about it. But I mean, from top to bottom, we need to break down what this means.
Yes. This is a big, huge week. It's funny that Caden this week says, peace out, Iowa. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
good point.
This is something I want to highlight. And I thought about this last night. And then Jared straight up, hey, if you're in here, you guys appreciate me and Ty and everybody here at Bama Football on YouTube. Please hit the thumbs up as you jump in. Enjoy our footage. Like we love coming in here. We love chatting with you guys. And we love bringing you this content. We like do it every day, sometimes twice a day on my. but hey, like, please hit those thumbs up and become a subscriber or fan funder. We appreciate you guys very much, everybody in here. So, but I will say this is this week is huge, and Caden Proctor saying, oddly enough, yesterday saying, "Hey, I am done at Iowa. The coaches from Iowa wish him the best." That was put out there. The coaches announced that he is no longer here. He is no longer with us. He is gone. Right? Huge. And go ahead.
Is it
Ty,
as huge as Jimmy Brown gifting one Bama football on YouTube
Jimmy
with Kyle
Brown
Henderson membership? I don't know the answer to that. Merrill, do you think it's that big? Because that's big news right there. Jimmy, in all seriousness, thank you for the donation.
100%.
Thank you for the support. And I've said this time and time again, health and time, two most valuable resources you have.
right.
And you guys are spending your time here with us. I don't think I can really put into words how much that means for either of us. Jake, I'm sorry. You know how I get when I see someone hit that,
man.
So I apologize. Back to you, my man.
No, we're good. And I appreciate that too. Thank you guys very much for doing that. But to get back to it, right, with Caden announcing, saying, hey, this week, which is, again, this is a huge installation week, exactly what you just asked me. Okay. And what I mean by that is like our first week, and I had to put these down to make sure that you guys understood how this breaks down. That first week is like a foundational week. We get ourselves out there. We're moving in the field. We're catching the football as a team. We're working through the drills. We're making sure that we're going to each station, right? Because we have stations. There's periods in practice. The horn goes off. You go to the next period, right? And in each period, you need to make sure you're utilizing that time maximum efficiency. Because during those times, you're doing skill work, individual work, you're doing one-on-ones or maybe 7-on-7. You go into team, you run a few plays, you jump back out. We're constantly learning transition, making sure our transition is smooth from place to place. That first week is just getting down, like getting back on the field and getting that feel and how everybody is, what's the energy like? Is our expectations right where we need them, right? Are we setting the tone for the rest of the season? Okay. Everything is being done in a way that first week just to set a very solid foundation. This is the same case now, though, right? Is now that we feel like we have a foundation. Okay. We feel like we have a foundation in place. Now what we're doing is we're going to install all of our packages. So we have making sure everybody understands the scheme. Okay. Do not get left behind on the scheme. And it's especially important on the offensive side. The beauty of the defense is Womack really talked about, or Womack talks about this, is meeting with Saban, right? And correlating how, like, as the defenses, he put it in a way like that. The 3-4 at this point was running in a direction of this nickel package majority of the time, right? And then the 4-2-5 is running in this direction of having these sub packages, just like the 3-4 runs pretty frequently with different looks. Okay. And how they're emerging together. You know what I mean? Like that, he talks about that. So he says it's odd enough because what I wanted to make sure was, we do not, we have a juice squad at Michael Sanders.
Talking about the offensive line, Michael asked, is it possible that we could have a squad on the offensive line? And I think on paper, Michael, very excited about it. And Jake, I guess this is a question for you and the undefeated. Maybe I've been hurt too many times.
Yeah. Okay.
Bama's averaged the 99th offensive line in terms of sacks allowed over the past 3 years. And on paper, every year, there's talent on the offensive line.
Oh, I hear you.
So do I think that the offensive line could be the strength of this team? When I look, I don't know of a better interior in the country, or at the very worst, I don't think that you could give me 3 interiors in the country that you're like, yeah, that's better than Brailsford, Booker, and Roberts. That's not happening. But it has to come together. But on paper, this offensive line could be really, really good. But I've been hurt, Jake. I'm like a scorned ex-lover. I've been hurt. I need to see the change, right? I need to see it.
That's right. And that's a good point. I think that offensive line, can it be? Yes. Will it be? I will go out there and I put my money down and I will say yes. My bet would be, I'm not going to bet the house, but I'm going to bet a pretty fat stack. I'll tell you that. Because I'll say this, man, is I really do believe, and just based on like the way KD's mind is, and you hear about this through his history of coaching, is with him, he is about the fine details. I will tell you right now, Coach Cap, that energy alone, with the fact that Coach Cap did not bring Coach Cap or Kapilovic in here, right? They did not bring him here because of just energy, just from a juice squad standpoint. I love his energy. I love his personality. I love how he portrays himself, right? We saw the video of him talking to Big Mike, and that's Mike Carroll, right? Which we all had a pleasure. If you guys weren't in here, we had a pleasure to chat with him last night. But here on Bama Football on YouTube. And he loves that energy too, man. And that's what's attracting players in recruiting. But Cap is about fine details too. Hence why his offenses were so successful when he ran them at North Carolina. I mean, he had stud offensive lines. His details are huge, and that's why you saw the productivity in the passing game at North Carolina. Okay, and I'll tell you, like, I think you're going to see that here. I think you're going to see these guys focus in. I've talked about this previously with like Booker holding a watch party with watching the Huskies, right, for the last 2 seasons, and then Parker Brailsford, right, are sitting there giving everybody, talking about what are we doing here, right? What's going on here? And Lynn, thank you very much, man. Okay, yeah, man. Hey, have fun at Pro Day. That's awesome. That's gonna be fun, man. That's legit. But you know, like for Brailsford to sit there and break it down for everybody around him, and everybody willing and buying into doing that doesn't. Hey guys, let me tell you something. That doesn't happen everywhere. Honestly, there's a film room time, and then everybody goes off and does their own thing, hanging out. This is outside of films, outside of practice. They all get some food. They sit down and they watch. These guys are ready to eat. They are ready to come together as one unit and, like a tidal wave, wipe the other people off the face of the earth. You know what I'm saying? It's like Moses in the Red Sea, dude. Like, that's where we're getting at right now. It's crazy what they want to do.
Great comment backing up what you're saying right here, Jake, as well. Jimmy Brown saying Josh Pate talked all last season about how Michigan was a player-led team. I'm getting the same feeling from Alabama this year. I agree. And it's not in one area. You have Milroe, you have Booker, you have Roberts, you have now Brailsford, who is he's going to be a leader on this team, right? Being a center. 100. I'm not saying he's going to be the leader, but whenever Jalen finds his way to the NFL, and is picked in the NFL draft, making an NFL team very happy about their future quarterback. Whenever Tyler Booker is picked in the NFL draft, making them very happy about them getting a lockdown guard, Brailsford will be a leader on this team. You can take it to the bank. But then we
100.
look on the defense, Jake. You got Agent
Oh
Zero,
gosh.
Deontay Lawson. You have Tim Keenan. You have Jaheim Otis. You have
Right.
Malachi Moore.
Whoa.
There are leaders on this
Yes.
team,
Yes.
and they are mobilizing. Beautiful to see. Love that comment, Jimmy. Love that comment.
Love it. Yeah. But 100%, Jimmy. Like that was, you're on point, man. On point. Because you know what's cool is like we just saw this during spring break. And Ty, I don't know if you saw these pictures that came out, but like you had Campbell out there working with the linebackers, the young linebackers coming in, right? We had Hale working with Bubba Hampton down in Texas, man.
Yep.
Right, like on the offensive side, we saw Malachi Moore and some of the other DBs working with the freshmen with Campbell, right? The trainer used to obviously was a DB here. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Did you peep that picture though of Campbell whenever he was working with the linebackers? Did you peep Justin Nwankwo?
Oh yeah, he's jacked.
I've said it for a
Man.
while. People ask me, "Hey Ty, who is your under the radar player in this class that you're most
Oh
excited
yeah,
about?" That's him, Justin
dude.
Nwankwo.
Yes, I'm going to be honest with you. If he plays, if he runs and moves with like the foundation he's already built from a strength standpoint, which we are seeing in his overall size, you know, I'll tell you, man, that guy is going to be dangerous, absolutely dangerous. He is a stud. I mean, it just goes to show like what guys are doing, putting work in. Because we talked about this with gosh, I'm blanking on the name, Mbakwe, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, look, I watched him in high school. I watched some of the games, man, and I'll tell you, like he's amazing. But I was like, okay, yeah, he's gonna put on a little more muscle. He'll be good. And then we saw him just here in spring, and I'm like,
I didn't think it was him.
I'm be honest, I didn't think it was him either. I was impressed. Like anything I've said in the past now of like guys need to maybe take time because they need their bodies to develop. What they are doing at Alabama, like again, this is a huge pitch to any recruits who jump on and listen. What they are doing at Alabama for these guys who, if you're like on the fence and trying to figure out everything, yeah, you need to figure out where you're comfortable, where you're going to be a part of. All you got to do is look at how the players are mentoring each other. The older guys are taking care of the younger guys. Number one, you're going to thrive. Number two, though, look at how these guys, how fast they're developing. You want to go to the NFL, you need to develop fast and you need to get on the field. Look at how these dudes are developing. Like amazing, man. Amazing. You see the size in these dudes. I mean, it's so impressive. Oh my goodness.
And to further your point, how many Alabama guys have gone to the NFL in the first round of the draft off of 1 year of work? Now, granted, that was under Saban, but those guys, like you still have such talented guys at Alabama.
Yep.
I'll put it like this. Tim Keenan emerged last year. If he continues on the trajectory, he's going to be a very high value draft pick. How many other universities out there can we say continuously off of 2 years of work? First, second round. And that's Alabama's MO. And yes, Saban had something to do with it. He had a big part to do with it, but he also laid the foundation. And this is what I love so much about Kalen DeBoer, Jake. And it's something you and I have talked about. He came in asking the question, what were the pinnacles of which Nick Saban rested success upon? What were the things that made you tick? If I can learn that, I don't need to be Nick Saban. Yeah. Nobody can be Nick Saban. I just can learn from you, as we all can. What made you successful, and how can I integrate some of that into what I already do? And that's what he's done. And 100. We're seeing a great result. I do want to focus on defense, though, Jake.
Yeah. Let's get
after I really want to focus on defense because you and I have kind of been leading a charge in terms of a thought on defense. Whenever Womack was first hired, everybody was saying, how do y'all think that the defense is going to transition from what they were running to what they're running now, the 4-2-5? And you and I have been beating the table saying it's going to be a relatively seamless transition. Why? There's not a Division I defense out there worth their salt that doesn't know how to play nickel in today's offense.
Oh, that's right.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
These concepts. And Jake, maybe this is an ignorant statement, but that's why I'm so glad you're here. Because, and as always, man, if I say something wrong, check me. That's how you learn. You know what I mean? That's how you learn.
I got you. Of course.
would you say it's a fair statement that defenses, and not Alabama, I'm saying defenses in college football, if we're giving percentages, might be in the nickel 50 to 55% of the time now?
Oh, yeah, I think it's even more.
Okay,
I'm
fair.
going to be honest with you. Like, I think that nickel package. I mean, that's why we're seeing so many. I've talked about this a little bit, hinted on it a bit, but you're seeing like your defensive back right now, and you go make your game the best you can make it, because you are going to get picked up by an NFL team and have a chance to get on the team. You might not, like, so the draft is interesting, right? Because the draft is working off of a certain percentage of guys like that are highly talented that could really affect a roster immediately. So that percentage of guys gets drafted. But how about we get into free agency when the draft is over, right? And that's where you can start to see guys who they'll grab them, right? And they'll start getting on the team. And you're going to see a ton of DBs get picked up. I mean, we've already seen it, right? There are a ton of DBs getting grabbed because they are running these sub packages now. And it's almost like, do we call like the nickel a sub still? Because it's not, at this point, it's being ran so much, it almost just becomes a base. Let's call it like it's just a 3-4 nickel. Boom, done. Right. And it's not even a sub. It's just the way the defense is being ran. That's why I think that's why I think you're seeing a lot of people talk about the 4-2-5, and it's more in a way that it's just being run in a 3-4 nickel package, basically majority of the time. Right. And you're just trying to put as much speed on the field, and you're putting an athleticism out there that can be athletic enough to cover, but also have the guys in place to stop the run. So it's interesting to see how Womack talks about his meetings with Saban, right? And how they come together and they see how the direction of the 3-4 and the 4-2-5 are meeting. Okay. Because the 4-2-5 was a very innovative, new transitional change back when, Gary Patterson really perfects it. And then you have Dave Womack and several others starting to really jump into it and focus on, hey, this is like kind of the new look to face everything, because offenses are becoming more dynamic.
One of the things I love, I said earlier, you might have caught it, but it was right as I first was talking about some of the questions the undefeated was asking. And I try and be as honest as possible. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know I don't know. I am very much a student of the game, but I don't have the knowledge that like Jake has. That's why I'm always asking him questions, trying to
I
to
appreciate
learn.
that, guy.
But
Man, I don't feel like I'm that knowledgeable. I just try to take off of the things I've experienced a little bit here and there. But I mean, it's all about learning all the time, man. I'm still learning too.
And I'm a little bit of a nerd, right? I got the Pokemon ball right behind me. If you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a nerd, right? I got all the books. Good. I'm a nerd. Right?
I was a big Halo fan, so
Oh, good God, right? Good God. But it's one of those things, right? Where like this is what I was talking about earlier. You talked about Patterson being huge for the 4-2-5. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the people that has really been foundational in my understanding of college football was Gary Patterson's starting safety. First team all Big 12 his first year. One of the guys I went to high school with, great dude, Denzel Johnson. Actually, Jake, you might know a bit about him because Washington was the first Division I team to offer him out of Gainesville, Texas. He was quarterback, and they ended up at TCU taking him from a quarterback to a safety. You can find his highlights on YouTube. He's got a big highlight. Denzel was a monster, and he is
great player.
so smart.
Super
he
smart.
came over for one of the national championship games.
Yeah.
Everybody leaves. It's midnight, right? And Denzel and I are up until 3:30 in the morning, and he's breaking down every single play, being like, "No, this person messed up." I mean, an absolute wizard. And I love that you said that, because that's kind of one of the reasons why I've been bullish. And I'm like, hey, I'm not worried about the transition to the 4-2-5, because Denzel has always told me, like, dude, everybody's running a nickel. Like, everybody's running a nickel. Saban and Gary Patterson were foundational in this defense. It's happening.
Yeah. I mean, 100%.
I got a question for you, Jake.
Yeah. What's up?
So we're talking about the implementation and why this week is so big. What group on the defense is this the most important for?
Oh, gosh. I think now that's a tough one. I don't think it's as hard on the defensive backs. I'm going to be honest with you. I know everybody would want to say defensive backs. Yeah, I do not think it's hard on the defensive backs, and the reason is because of the way the field works, field and boundary, and then the way the coverage is split down the middle. Okay, like it does make it a little more simple conceptually to understand. Okay, but I will say, I do think where you put the most pressure on guys getting things like to the T is right there in that linebacker group, especially right now, because they number one, they're like your it's always kind of been the case with your middle linebacker, Mike, is being your communicator, your leader in the field, right? But I think we're lucky to see that in several different split ups here. Like I think we got Malachi Moore, who is phenomenal. They talk about him having a coaching mindset where he's like a coach out there with the players, which is great. Like I love that, man. I love that. I love that guy is out there working with these young guys and building them up and helping them catch up as quickly as possible. You know what I mean? Like it's not, the competition's real, but guys aren't sitting out there trying to screw another dude over because he thinks he might take his position. You know what I'm saying? They're out there like actually working together. That's a huge, huge fact, because that stuff happens in practice when you go to other places. But I will tell you this is from the linebacker standpoint, making sure that they truly understand like their assignment and in their depth. The beauty about, I guess, with the defensive line, maybe on the bandit and the wolf a little bit, you'll have some variations that you need to be aware of, like where you're lining up, whether it's a 9, a 5, or 4 inside technique, right? And then with your nose tackle, and those, for those who don't know what the technique is, right? It's like where your head up is, whether it's on right up on a guard, on the left shoulder of a guard, right shoulder of a guard, right shoulder, head up, outside of a tackle, outside of a tight end. So that's what that means, and it's all based on numbers, are based on the gaps. So that's probably one of those areas for the bandit and the wolf, right? And just that transitioning, and some of these guys like Keeley having to make a transition move, a little bit of a difference in his position going down to this bandit position, which I think he's going to excel in, right? But I think overall, and then Ty, did you freeze again?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, I'm making sure you're good. You were frozen there for. I'm like, oh
No,
man, but I got you a little smaller, man. So
I'm a nerd. I told you, man. So if anybody starts, like, if you start going on this and you're just in your zone, I'm gonna be sitting there like, I got a darn notebook next to me taking notes as we're like, I am a nerd through and through. So no, I'm not frozen. I'm just enamored. I'm just enjoying the moment.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. 100%. And like I was saying, with these guys, I think that's because you could almost say that group of linebackers is like a wolf, right? And your bandit, even though the bandit is like a true D end in this defense, I would still count it as a linebacker. This is still similar in a weird positional, the way these guys, what positions are playing, especially like you look at Keeley, who has a linebacker body, right? They can transition with these different sub packages, and that's what we're really going to see now, and how these sub packages play on defense. Okay, so remember, people talk about a lot with Nick Saban and his 3-4. Like there was a lot of different sub packages, and his coverages were really distinct, right? In exactly what they were doing. The beauty, I think, about this defense is with Womack is that your coverages are still going to be distinct. There's still going to be some complications, but at the same time, it does break it down, make it a little more smooth from a transition standpoint from what Saban was doing. But from the linebacker standpoint in the D line, now your D tackle and your nose tackle, right, and where they're lining up, now their singular gap control is good. Like it makes it, you're not playing a dual gap. Okay, you get to play a single gap and go. I love that. So, but I think from the standpoint of your linebackers, your bandit, your wolf, your Mike, and whatnot, and then gosh, I forgot the other one. What the other one is? There's one more, but anyhow, but with those guys, just what they're going to do and how they're going to learn to communicate this and make the correct reads. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where with the different blitz packages that come in, because they talk about Womack's a very aggressive blitzer, right? So he is very aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Like those are where these installations maybe might get a little more confusing within the sub packages. So, and on top of that, it's extremely aggressive. So these guys are not like going out there and be like, today we're only working on one thing. No, and no. You better be in your playbook. You're going to be so tired after practice, after your day. You better be in your playbook well into the evening, really trying to understand, writing it down, watching video, fast forward, rewind, whatever you got to do. Like get onto your phone, talk it to yourself in the mirror, walk it out in your room, go in the backyard and pretend, put up cones and do that. I mean, seriously, guys, that's what you got to do to remember all of this stuff.
So with that in mind,
mm-hmm.
How big is it? And anybody in the undefeated, you have questions, by all means, you already know. Ask them. We talk about them. How big is it that whenever we're talking about who is the starters at inside linebacker, they're returning? How key is that for Alabama in this transition?
Like, seriously, man. This is your bet. This is probably, I would say this is the best linebacker combo in the nation. Like 100%. 100%. Just the way these guys work together, and then overall, like who they are as players. Whoa, that's a dangerous combo.
I've been saying consistently for whenever the college football season goes to roll around and you get all of your top lists.
Yep.
Be on the lookout. Lawson and Campbell will be on every top 10 list that's put out for your inside linebacker. On every single one. Yeah. Book it. And I'm not a gambler. But go ahead and put that $3 bet on it.
I mean, seriously, like, I mean, those two dudes, man, I'm sure it's bothering me now that I forgot the other linebacker position, the name of it. It's Sting. What the hell am I doing? That's where I'm at. I'm like, what is that? Come on, man. But yeah, so with those two dudes, like, oh my gosh. And I think that's what's going to be really, everyone was really worried about the defense, right? Because they're like, oh no, Nick Saban's gone. This is your defensive king, which I 100% agree, right? I 100% agree. But you look at these two, and now the system they're put in to thrive in, and they are in a position that has probably the most transition, right? As far as really making sure they lock down and understand what the assignments are, how everybody is I guess, flowing together. I talked about this a day or two ago. Is that defense is all meant to, so it's a swarm D for a reason, but it's like a wave, right? Everything has to stay together, a wall, like constantly. So these guys are a really key integrated piece, because that can be a area of weakness that they talk about. They do this because of undersized people. Well, Alabama's not undersized, and they're not athletic. That's the 4.25 was kind of developed to help athletes. Yeah, it was to balance out like the field of, maybe you got a couple of guys who are super athletes, and maybe you got some guys who aren't, but they're fast, or not as big, but they're fast, right? So that's not the case at Alabama. So now, what did you just create with this swarm D? And then on top of that, look at what Womack's done everywhere with it. I mean, that alone has to make you like, oh man, whoa, like jump off. You get so excited to think about. I can't wait to watch them play defense. I cannot wait.
Speaking of that, Ruben has a great question here, and I love this. Ruben says, which side of the ball is harder to pick up? Kalen DeBoer's offense or Womack's defense? Dare I say offensive, because like I said, as much as there's going to be different terminology, Ruben, these guys, they know nickel. They know nickel defense. So I think that transition, it's already something you're rooted in. Whereas, and God, I hate to say this about them, but like when I look at Tommy Rees, when I look at Bill O'Brien, you didn't have the creativity that you're going to be having with Kalen DeBoer. Jake, I don't know. Are you a big UFC fan? I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah. So part of what we used to do, or I used to do coming out of high school, was I would train and like Muay Thai, and
Oh, I love it.
and then I've done some other stuff too. But yeah, just from a standpoint of getting your body right before you go play.
So there was just a great card. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to liken Alabama's past offenses to the two guys that fought in the main event.
Yeah.
Alabama's offense under Bill O'Brien and Tommy Reese, for those of you that watch UFC, was like Cheeto Vera. Is it effective? It's effective enough to get you to the promised land. What
Yeah.
they have now is Sean O'Malley. And what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean when I say O'Malley, for those of you that have watched, O'Malley is constantly feinting. I mean, he'll hit you with the shoulder roll, and then he'll do this little head fake where he turns his head back, and everybody's like, why is he doing it? Because he throws
Mm-hmm.
spinning wheel kicks. So you
Yeah.
don't know if that's going to be a fake or if there's going to be a. The reason why I make that distinction is Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to be filled with subtlety. You're going to have motion. You're going to have all of these feints to where you don't know, is that going to be a jab or is he setting me up for a left hook? I don't know.
Oh,
So
yes.
my answer would be, I think that the offense is going to be a bit more difficult to pick up than is the defense. Jake, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, that's a great comparison. Number one, I think you can take this into like a fight. You can look at it from a tactical standpoint of like if you're going, on the battlefield or even in a gun battle, right? Like from a tactical standpoint, you can look at the same thing. Everything's done to set up something else, right? And Kyle asked me a question like, where do you see like which group do you see like thriving out of this offense? Okay. Number one, I think every group is going to thrive. I think the running backs are going to thrive. I think we have a very unique, something different that we haven't seen at Washington. What we will see now is the tight end group. And the only reason I say that is because you had Sheridan, who worked really closely with the tight ends, had a lot of success at Washington with them, but Grubb utilized them differently than I think Nick will. I think Sheridan is going to, I think we have a kind of a secret weapon there that doesn't get highlighted enough in this offense. And remember, this offense is constantly evolving. It can constantly transition and move and switch out of nowhere. So I think you have these amazing wide receivers, which we're seeing their explosiveness, we're seeing their ability, and we have a coach in Shepard who is going to make sure they are fine-tuned and detailed and ready to run these precision routes, because that's what they are, right? Like they might not look like it. When we watch the games, everyone's like, well, they just run across the field. No, there are like specific areas that they got to go to. The cut is on this move. The hips move like this. Like you break down here, you switch your head this way, and then you flip your elbow back around and power through, and you're up the field, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things there that in that precision routes. They're done for a reason, in the right way for a reason, to draw that attention by the defense. Then you have that running back group who is so powerful, amazing. I'm excited to see these guys thrive. Like the question is going to be is how many times will we have to actually go deep, right? Yeah, when we play some really talented teams with a good defense, maybe we'll open that field. But like my question is, like, you look at the way these guys are preparing, is this running back room, like as they start to feed the ball to the running back based on what they're seeing, like are they just about to like blow up and shorten the fields? You won't see it quite as much as Washington, where you're going, 70, 60, 80 yards on a drive, as much as Washington had to do, right? Because their defense wasn't quite there. That's the thing. Now we talk about the complication aspect of picking up this offense. So it's funny because I'm trying to think of where I read this. I read this in an article. I don't want to give credit to those people. It might have been. Hold on, let me check real quick. It might have been TDA, maybe. I can't remember. Either TDA or On3, Bama Online. They did a really good job on this article. But really what it was is anybody could have seen this in the end. It was just an interview of Womack talking about his own kind of a viewpoint on getting in there and getting everything going for this upcoming this next week. We're coming out of spring break, right? Or overall, what's the goal is like spring football. And so I will say this is like, he goes, well, we have to be aggressive on our installation. He goes, we're aggressive, but we have to be almost ultra aggressive, because he goes, I know what it's like to go up and practice against KD, which they coach together, right? And he goes, they install their offensives extremely aggressive. And so you need to, as an offensive player, you need to be focused. You need to be focused. That goes back to me saying, wait a minute, is this Caden Proctor has the guys, we all know Booker's talked to him. I'm sure other guys have talked to him. We know he's like good buddies with is it Formby? Yeah, he's like best friends with like Formby. I mean, he's friends with everybody on the team. So with Caden, is that why he's doing now what he did and he's having to tune in? He can't be out there on the field, but does he need to learn this stuff ASAP? Are they telling him like, you need to be here to learn this? Do you understand that if you're coming back? Okay. And it goes back into the point of like him proving himself, like 100%. He has to not prove himself in the sense of like talent, but prove yourself in a sense of like just building that trust again, that you are not a guy who's going to dip when things get hard. A lot of people brought that up, and this is a complicated offense. And as an offensive line, the goal of, and I will tell you, KD will not let this slide. And Coach Cap won't let this slide either. The whole goal of that offensive line is to work as one. So they need to be on the same page as fast as possible to make sure this offense excels in their installations, right? In the aggressiveness. So these fine details are very, very, very important. That's where you say, okay, like, who's tuning in? Is everybody on the same page? Is everybody picking it up? Because if you, especially for the freshmen, if you're a young guy and you don't know, and you're like, I'm not sure. Well, I'll tell you, you make sure you are asking questions. Make sure you are getting the answer ASAP, which is the beauty of having almost one dude from Washington at every position except running back, because those are all the complicated positions.
And I love that you talk about the running back, because Coach Sean and I broke that down. And whenever I went to do that video, and Jake, you're going to have an appreciation for this because you and I did the offensive line video together, and Jake got to kind of see how I work. And God bless him and Coach Sean for being able to work with me, because I'm the type of person that I'm going to show up, and that's where my inspiration is going to come from. Whatever I think in that moment, I don't script content. When I wake up in the morning on my channel, I don't know what I'm going to make. I just turn on the microphone and you guys get an authentic take. But I was very inspired the day that Coach Sean and I were making that video, about an hour before the video. And it's crazy. I actually showed you, I had the biggest script I'd had in 3 years for the offensive line video. And it was 3 notes. It was like 3 little lines, like, and that was it. I don't like doing it because I want to create an environment that it feels like we're all sitting around a table, chopping it up as a group, just like you love to do when you're out at lunch with your friends talking college ball. That's what I want to make this feel like. So authenticity, off the cuff. That's what's, Jake, I love
that's it, man.
The running backs, man, because when I went back and looked, I was so inspired by Kalen DeBoer saying, I tailor my offenses to my personnel. And I thought to myself, what does that look like? Specifically at Washington, because I know as much as his time in Sioux Falls was impactful, the people, not Alabama fans, but the general college football population out there, they're not moved by the Sioux Falls stuff. It's only players, former players are moved by it. Like we talk about the Pat McAfee thing all the time, right?
Yeah.
Pat McAfee and those guys were almost making fun of how everybody's like, oh, well, his Sioux Falls record doesn't count. And Pat McAfee was like, yeah, it's only like he was out there with Sioux Falls level talent, with Sioux Falls level resources, just winning. I bring this to your attention because he was right. He does tailor his offenses to his personnel. When I looked at Washington the first year he got there, their running back, and I'm not going to attempt to say his last name, not out of a disrespect, but out of an over amount of respect, because I'm going to butcher it. Is that it? Tuapapa?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to butcher it. Thank you very much. Right. I believe he had something in the realm of 133 carries. Whenever Dylan Johnson got there, that went up to 240.
Oh yeah. I think they really wanted to highlight that, man. But you know why he had that though with Tuapapa is because he split. There's like a 3-way split almost too. You had Will Nixon, who would have been a dude I thought maybe was going to really excel. But he was really splitting that. I don't think we saw that split as much with Dylan Johnson. And that was because I just do not think there was as much depth there. You had some good players, but there's a lot of youth. We saw, and I can't remember the kid's name, but the backup running back or the second string running back who came in. And it's just a bummer that Dylan was kind of hurt a good chunk of the year too. Because I think if he wouldn't have, man, you would have seen that guy have a monster. I mean, the dude still ran for 1,200 yards.
while hurt.
Dude, that's insane. Insane.
And he averaged
Like,
4.4 a pop.
yeah. And that just goes to show, I mean, okay, like everyone would make the argument, well, that's because they're playing against Pac-12 defenses. There's some really good defenses. There's several defenses within the top 20 this year in the Pac-12. UCLA being one of them. Arizona, I think, was one of them. Like there was a number of defenses that were pretty solid, to tell you the truth. And it's hard to compare those necessarily. Like, yeah, the SEC is by far is faster. They're more athletic, right? There's a lot of stuff in the SEC that is dominant in college football. But I will say, for a guy to come in there and do that while hurt, now you get a pretty good comparison of what we're going to see, because a guy hurt playing against maybe a weaker defensive conference, that's a good comparison. You could say a guy who's not hurt playing against a stronger defensive conference, right? So the running back room, man, it's going to be cool to see how these guys grab on to the concept, and then how DeBoer and Shepard and Sheridan all decide like who has the hot hand. I spoke about this with Kyle. Who is going to get majority of carries, who will get majority of catches, right? Who's out there like making plays? That's what it's going to come down to. Who's making plays? Who's ready to go?
A lot of that will solve itself. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't even know where to begin on offense, to be quite frank with you. Like, defense is much easier for me to dive into.
Yeah.
And it's simply because when I start thinking offensively, I get so excited. I'm genuinely sitting like, where do I begin this conversation? Do I start with the wide receivers? And if I do that, which wide receivers am I going to highlight? I mean, that's a genuine, like, if I have 5 minutes to highlight 4 wide receivers, who?
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, I know I'd have a few off the top of my head, but when you start looking, it's a very talented room. You look at the running back position, Richard Young, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, all going to be dudes. You have Daniel Hill, you have Kevin Riley. Love that. Look at the tight end position. I mean, I think Dippery coming back is huge. Danny Lewis, I think, will be a bigger part. Getting Caden Proctor back certainly goes a long way to start answering the offensive line questions. And then we talk about the quarterback room. And what a quarterback room it is.
It is. Extreme. Like, it's impressive, man. Like, and in that quarterback room, like there's so much talent. These guys are out there. Again, I think for them, that's probably the next part of if we were to talk about who has the most complicated job to pick up on aggressive installation, I would definitely put it on the quarterbacks. Just I think the expectation is really high. I think everybody saw Penix excel at Washington under this offense, and what he was able to do in a 2-year time frame. I mean, shoot, he still would have been one hell of a draft pick in a 1-year time frame, right? But what he was able to do, I think that expectation, the bar was set then going forward with Katie's offense, that as a quarterback, you really need to come in and show that you have that football IQ that's through the roof, right? Like, yeah, you need to be able to make the throws, which I think is, I give props to Milroe for going out and like the amount of work that he's putting in as far as from a technique standpoint, from a standpoint of just getting into the film room, trying to understand everything about this offense, from a standpoint of, taking in the fact that he's there to compete. He does not just think this job is his. And that's not how KD operates. It is a competition, right? Like, Ty Simpson has just as much of a chance of winning this job as Milroe. The reason we hear more about Milroe is because everyone hates on him, right? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, stop hating on this dude. I respect the dude's work ethic, right? But also respect each player, each quarterback out there who has that mindset that they're driven because they see that they'll be successful no matter where they line up and no matter whenever they get their shot, right? The competition's there and it's beautiful, and And did you just Ty, did you see this?
Hmm.
I just saw there's a comment, and I don't know if this is BS, everybody. So we'll see. You got to break this early. Caleb Downs missing Ohio State practice.
I haven't
Get the
seen
hell
that,
out of
but
here, man.
we've also been live. You know what I mean? So like we
Mm-hmm.
we could be missing things right now because like I said, I
Man.
was in a be dropping the ball to hit the gritty.
Yeah, I know. I got you.
That's messed up, DM, but that's funny. Ty
What
Simpson,
now?
he was talking about Ty Simpson. He said Ty Simpson be dropping the ball to hit the gritty, and,
Yeah.
it's just that's fine. I will look into that.
Yeah, man. I have no idea what that's about. So,
But I do know
yeah.
that the Ohio
Yeah.
State Collective came out today and like
Oh,
said something about Caleb Downs being like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'll
oh,
try and find exactly what it is."
yeah. So I know a lot of people have said like Caleb Downs doesn't follow Ohio State on his social media platforms. Caleb Downs is doing this. He's refollowing guys on you know, social media from Alabama. Like, okay, like I get it. Like that is a lot of stuff. Like there are people are it's hard. You really want to read into things. But man, like who knows, right? Like in the end of the day, like who truly knows? And it could just be like again a hype game. No, I don't think you're DM. I don't think you're man. I don't think you're trolling at all. I just was like saying I haven't seen that, so I'm like, what? That's kind of crazy, you know what I mean? But I don't think you're trolling. I know you're a big fan. 100. Become a fan funder, my friend. Same with you, train wreck. I see you too.
This is what
But
I was talking about earlier. Let's see if we can't get.
let's yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna blow up my screen so I can see this. Okay, there you go. Right. Back a little bit. Back a little bit. Right there. Right there. Yeah. Our student athlete partner, Caleb Downs, is locked in and ready for a big year. Go Bucks. So
And
they
that's
just
the
posted
Ohio
that, the
State
foundation.
NIL Foundation. A
Yeah.
foundation,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I get,
7:23 a.m.
yeah. And that just because, I mean, the news was going off last night. I
Well,
mean,
and
yeah.
listen, all that tells us is that even if people were just trolling about Caleb Downs, it made them do it. What did you just say earlier, Jake?
For what now?
About Caleb
Oh,
Downs?
yeah.
Like, what if this is a leverage play?
100%.
Well,
Like, what if it's a play what if they just want to grab attention too? I mean, in the end of the day, this could be an Ohio State attention game to get like coverage back on them because they see what just is happening with Alabama, right? Because I think the Caleb Downs stuff started to really come open a lot from a standpoint of like they saw Caden Proctor and it just went off all over the news, right? Like everybody's talking about Caden Proctor and this switch up because of the comparison to Nick Saban and his conversation with in the things he had said around what's going to destroy college football. And then everyone's like, well, Alabama now benefits it again, right? And they get this attention. And I talked about this last night. I said, this is great attention because what it does is shows a player who leaves, realizes that, hey man, like this is where I'm meant to be. I see all the good things happening. The guys are talking to me and I can feel that energy there and I want to come back. Right. So that is the most positive attention. And then you look at that and you go, whoa, like now all these recruits are saying, oh, get me in there. Get me in there. You already saw it with them showing up at practice, but now they're like, oh, okay, I want in on Alabama. Right. You're seeing guys who are committed elsewhere, which you see all the time. But I mean, I feel like you are seeing a lot of energy around Alabama's program. So they build this big media bubble, right? This amazing like kind of coverage, and everyone's eyes are on Alabama. Go to Alabama. What does maybe Ohio State do? Maybe it ends up, and this is just conspiracy theory stuff, right? But maybe that's a great way to get some eyes back on them because let's be honest, they were one of these groups who are really focused in on their recruiting classes. They spent a ton of money on their recruiting classes, so this is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be something like that. Could also just be true, straight up. You know what I'm saying, Ty? Like that it could be like one of those things where this this could be straight up true. Like in the end of the day, it could Caleb Downs could very well be like, look, man, I'm going back. That's where I'm comfortable at. And these
yeah.
guys all stay close, you know.
So I
I
found
don't
the post people are talking about, the Caleb Downs post. This Twitter account has gotten so many people, myself included.
Oh, got you.
But
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
fake Caleb Downs Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because this is one of the better fake ones I've seen. In the bio, it says class of 2023 Mill Creek High School. Like, it has his huddle link, everything. This is a person
Yeah.
who went out to like make it look as official, because at first glance you would absolutely
Mm-hmm.
think this was the one, because usually in these troll accounts you don't have the class of 2023, it came from this high school with these are my height and weight and this is my huddle film.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think it's hilarious that rumor circulated, and now Ohio State's
I
NIL
know, man.
Foundation is scrambling. That's awesome. That's
That's
beautiful.
hilarious. That is funny, man. They're just like, hey, well, how much more do you need? How much more do you need? Mm,
Oh
I
man.
don't know, man. I look, man. I don't. Caleb, no matter what he does, what comes true of it, what doesn't, right? I hope he's successful no matter what he's doing. He's a great kid. He did an amazing job as a freshman here. Like, good luck. We're at whatever you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm focused on the guys truly that we have going through spring right now during this period that is a very intense period and a very important period of this week of practice to really lock in on what's going on. And then on top of that, like Caden Proctor coming back and coming in to really focus himself and have the opportunity to use this adversity to be great. Like, I mean, it truly is. It's one of those chances that you can use this adversity and jump your game. You can elevate your life, and coming to an atmosphere where if he leaves for family reasons, right? This would be the atmosphere where you'd come back into because of the way guys feel right now. It is very much a family in that locker room, 100%.
And
So,
that's huge.
but
Culture
yeah,
is everything.
oh, 100, 100. Like, and it's so important too. Like, that's what, in the end of the day, that's what the decision you make to your recruiting and where you want to play, right? You need to feel that love. And I do think that energy, that love, that excitement, but also that kind of family feel with the players. I think that I believe in it. It almost comes across when these guys are when they're seeing pictures, when the coaches are talking. You definitely see it, man. Like, so that love aspect, that feeling, like, that's where, like, screw the money aspect. I mean, yeah, it's one thing you get a couple $1 million, and that's hard to deny, especially in a situation where maybe your family is struggling, or maybe you're going through something tough, or maybe it's just the money aspect that's exciting when you're that young. But there's something to be said about joining a group like that. And I don't think a lot of guys realize this when they're young, but when you join a group that that is dedicated and honing in on their skill and achieving one common goal, and everybody's mind is in that same place with that same passion and desire and care and love for one another, that is something that gives you a life lesson that you cannot replace with money. You cannot replace that with money. And it's a hard thing to find. So I don't know. For me, that's where I would be like, wow, man. But again, that's how do you say that to a 17, 18, 19-year-old?
And
Make them.
$100,000 doesn't hurt either. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
get 100 because you're not going to get paid.
yeah,
You
go
know.
go go experience a great culture. Transfer to
Hmm.
Iowa to watch Caitlin Clark ball and get that 100K, and then transfer back. You know what I mean? There are loopholes, people. There are loopholes.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
didn't want to talk about this right here. Mr. Smith 44 says Downs has literally started following Alabama football again and unfollowed Ohio State on Instagram, and it's his real account. Now, Mr. Smith, I don't know about follows or unfollows, right? But
Hmm.
what I do know is everybody yesterday was saying, "Oh, Downs has removed all the Ohio State
Yeah.
stuff from his bio." It was never there.
Yeah.
That and no, whether he'd unfollowed them or follow that, I don't have the information on. In fairness, I don't know if he was following, but I do know that the Ohio State stuff was never in the bio, at least on Instagram. Just kidding.
Dude, I love it. Man, something else just popped up like within the last 54 minutes, but we got Marcus Harris showing up, which is exciting. I wonder if he's just coming. Yeah, he's coming to visit.
Which is
Uh, that kid out of Mater Dei, he's a good wide receiver. He's a stud.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a 5-star wide receiver, number 1 in California. Marcus, I'm going to tell you what. There's a few California boys. Mater Dei has a number of guys, right? They always do, but there's a few other California boys that we're targeting that are beasts. I'd like to see some of those guys jump on. Like for me, I really like Dejon Lee, that cornerback. I think he's like number 4, number 3 cornerback. I really like him. His size, his like attitude. I love him. I mean, there's a number of guys I could highlight in recruiting, but I'm excited to hear what Duke does. Duke Johnson, that's for sure. I bet everybody's excited for that one. I mean, I have a good feel about Big Duke, man. Like, and that guy has another great mindset. Honestly, all these dudes. Like talking with Luke Metz last night.
Oh, I love him.
And yeah, man. Well, and Metz too. What I think I like about Metz, he brings a very dynamic style, but he has like the nose of the grindstone guy. Like when he commits to something, he's like committed, and you see that in his playing style. Like he plays, his reaction speed's amazing. His overall explosiveness is very good. I mean, the kid is extremely strong, and he just plays with like an energy level that will honestly he would fit. He's a perfect fit in this defense. So hopefully that's the direction that he wants to go.
What do you think about this? This is a good one. This is
Let
a
me
good
see
one.
here.
This comment's a good one.
Let's see. Proctor acting like an NFL vet, just didn't want to go to OTAs. Laugh out. Man, that better not be the case, though. I'm telling you, Proctor, you better freaking show up, dude.
Yeah, that is funny though. I like
yeah, that's funny,
Stevie.
man. I mean, but that's something I'm going to be honest. I highlighted last night, and some people brought up was like, "Hey, man, you're not here for that fourth quarter program. Like, I guarantee you, Iowa's not doing that same sort of work, right?
True.
What are you doing to that? That's one of those areas where you got to come in and you just got to really be dedicated and lock it in, lock that in that work ethic. So that's huge, man. Like, yeah.
You were talking about Duke Johnson. What time is that commitment tonight? What
It
time do we need to be
looks
watching for him to pop?
Yeah, he says I'll be announcing my commitment 5:30 live. He does not. That's this evening, but I do not know if. Can anyone tell me where's Duke from again?
Georgia.
Is he a Georgia guy? So will he be Central or?
Oh, I'm real dumb. I don't have that information.
Yeah, man. So I don't know. So if he's gonna be Central or Eastern time, but so he says 5:30 live.
Beautiful. 4:30 Central. George says. This is why we have like Jorah and all them in here because I'm real dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah. Dude, trust me. That's one area with me. I got to really look that up, man. But yeah, that'll be good. I'm excited to see that, man. Like with him and to see what decision he makes. I think we probably feel pretty good about where he's going to go in general. But I mean, I think he's also one of those guys who, once he kind of buys in and he finds what he wants, like he's ready to go. You know what I mean? And that dude can play. Honestly, all the guys you look at the class in general right now. Like I love Zamir Smith, right? Yeah, hey, Patriot Life. What's up, my friend? Woo, woo.
With the 50 saying, good afternoon, Coach Jake and Coach Ty. I appreciate that, my man. Welcome back, Jake. Yeah, welcome back, Jake. It's been too long.
Thank you.
Roll Tide with the $50 donation. Thank you so much for that, Patriot Life. Your support has been great. Constantly giving either memberships or the donation. Thank you very much for that, Patriot Life. That means a ton to all of us here
100.
at Bama Football on YouTube.
That's right, man. Like we appreciate that a ton. Like it's good to see you again, Patriot Life. I mean, and everybody, guys who I haven't seen too in the chat. And I'm sorry, like last night was so crazy. Ty, did you catch any of that last night, or did you do a rewatch at all?
I had just an act.
Yeah.
Yesterday was just a wild day for me, so I was all over the place, right? Like I had to head down to Oklahoma from where I was from to handle some of that the family situation. Came back during the day, got my shin blasted, and then went back to Oklahoma to go for more of the planning and everything. So I came back just to have a tattoo appointment. And then as I'm getting tattooed, that's when all of a sudden my phone's blowing up. Hey, Caden Proctor's coming back to Bama. And I'm like, well, this is great. This is the day that I can't record because I got to leave here and instantly head back. The only reason I kept the appointment is because there's a studio, and I know this is off topic, but there's a studio here in Denton, Texas.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable, Jake. Like,
Oh,
I'll
man.
send you the
Okay.
link to
Please do,
their
dude.
stuff, but
I'm a tattoo guy.
I can't show it, but I got
all over
the shin.
Oh yeah, man, it looks good. I like
Elastic
it, man. I like
American
it.
traditional, and we're gonna finish
Dude,
the leg here soon. But
I love that, dude.
so no,
I love
I
it.
didn't get to see it. What was going on last night?
Yeah, so last night was pretty wild because we get in and right away, I mean, it just blew up from Kane Proctor News. Talked about that. I mean, shoot, it's like basically a full segment. I barely got to highlight any of the stuff that I think I highlighted only one thing. And a lot of you guys are in there. You guys saw it, but it was good stuff. It was good news. I hope you guys enjoyed it last night with my segment. And then you had Coach Sean and Coach Jay, and they had their segment is always awesome, right? Like, and I love listening to Coach Sean too, man. Like, he just has the voice, the golden voice, right? But his perspective's good, and Coach Jay is very, very smart. He's very articulate when he's looking at and breaking down his analysis of how he sees different aspects of the game, and from like all different perspectives. And then we had Smook, you know what I'm saying? And Smook, that's where it just went crazy. But during the time frame, even on my segment, we had almost 400 in here, close to like between 350, 400. And it was wild, man. Like the comments, I tried to say what's up to everybody, but it was impossible to see everybody's name. So I saw a lot of shout outs last night when I rewatched and able to look through the comments. I actually try to do that so I can get back at you guys the next day and tell you all thank you. And Marquita, I know you last night you had said a number of things, man, and Caitlin had, and Jared, I saw you had thrown some stuff out there. I mean, everybody was throwing stuff out, and I could not get to everybody. Like the comments were flying through. So for all those who did say hi, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you guys. I missed you guys. It's nice to be back and jumping in. And today was kind of a unique day because you don't really get this very often, where me and Ty just do like basically an hour and a half together. We haven't actually even done that before, but it works out. It was perfect. You know what I'm saying?
And I think sometimes having the duo thing, I think all of us have our segment, but on a day like today where there's the pro day going down right now, I think a duo is so great because it allows for a wide range of topics, a lot of discourse. Speaking of discourse, we couldn't continue without shouting out Patriot Life once again. Gifted 10 Bama football on YouTube with Kyle Henderson memberships. So some of you out there, you might have just became a member. Be sure to thank Patriot Life for his generosity.
100.
Patriot Life. Thank you so much, my man. William saying, Ty, Jake, what's up, man? Kicking it and having a good time.
Yeah.
Having a real good time.
I hear you, man. Like it's like there's just so much fun. It's consistent, right? Even if we didn't get the Caden Proctor news, like the stuff that everybody breaks down and what we get to see. I think for me, like I said, my goal someday would be to work in like as a like recruiting personnel for I mean, to be honest, would be for Alabama. It'd be amazing. It would be accomplishment for me, and that's what I'd like to do. But I'll tell you, it's amazing to watch from a recruiting standpoint, just the energy around these recruits and a lot of these young guys coming in. Like I was just gonna say, I like Zamir Smith, right? Like stud athlete. I'm interested to see where they play him. You know, does he play a corner? Does he play wide receiver? You got Miles Johnson. I mean, let's not forget about him. Solid in his commitment. Same with Anthony Rogers, right? And then we got Derek Smith, a complete stud. I really like Derek. Derek is a rangy athlete, very explosive. And then you got Antonio Coleman. And I know we're about to see more. I mean, that is coming for sure. And if you did, like I said, you didn't tune in last night, what was crazy, right, is we have Luke Metz, just a phenomenal young man. Very happy for him and his opportunity to go to Alabama. We get to talk with, or Smook gets to talk with him, and we're all kind of in chat. We all get to talk. And then you get Big Mike come in. Michael Carroll, man. Michael Carroll pops in. Like stud. Absolute stud out of nowhere. Like, I mean, I literally had just like kind of sent Smook a thing, been like, hey man, look at Big Mike getting this shout out, right? You know, and we got another shout out.
Yeah, Killtack with the $10. Thank you so much, Killtack.
Yeah, 100% Killtack.
Awesome, man. He says we need to figure out a way or how to get everyone to show up to the spring game and sit in the same spot to advertise the channel. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That would
That'd
be
be
cool. I
awesome.
know we're talking about something. I know Kyle and those guys, T and whatnot, come up with a plan. We'll see what he wants to do and we'll go from there, man. I believe in Kyle. I
Oh yeah.
believe in Kyle's leadership. You know what I mean? Kyle's the man, and same with T in the background, and just all the stuff that goes on, and the work and the time that's put in is phenomenal. And you got to give a big shout out because of everything that's been done on this channel and the way it's going about it. Right? There's a lot of this is genuine. This is sincere. This is making sure we're here to bring you our opinions, like Coach Sean's, in my humble opinion, right? But our opinions, but also share that love of how much we enjoy the sport, college football, and Alabama football in general. Like Roll Tide, man, like 100. So, and then Ty, I don't know if we got anybody else popping in today.
No, I don't think we do. That's why I was going to say.
Yeah.
If what segments did you have to do today?
I mean, well, that was so for me, like this, we just ran through mine, right? And then I don't think we got anybody else today.
Not until the night shows.
Not until night. At
I
least
don't
I
believe
don't think
so.
so. So let me check something real quick. Yeah, okay. I got you. I'll let them get that figured out then. All right. So yeah, we'll just keep running through it until we kind of get a heads up, and you let me know, Ty. From there when we are good, and we'll jump back and end the segment. But for now, we're going to keep rolling. But like I was saying, with this recruiting, I think that's where it was very exciting. And what was that? What was that comment, Ty?
William says, Ty, you and I talked about players coming back a month or so ago, and we may very well may have, William. I've always said this, and I will maintain, I'm a goldfish, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Ted Lasso. Jake, have you ever seen Ted Lasso?
Yeah, man. Ted Lasso's great, dude.
What's the
Great.
happiest animal out there? It's a goldfish because they forget about, and I'm notorious. Like, I will have something in my hand and my wife will be like, "Oh, can you hand that to me?" And I'll just look down and it's not in my hands anymore. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know where it is. It could be
Gone.
anywhere." So it's just a foregone. Don't give me anything you care about because I am truly a goldfish. My memory is awful. But William, I
Yeah.
do seem to recall you and I having a conversation about the players who had left. I do seem to recall something about that. I know there were some people who thought that there could be some guys coming back. I think I was more hesitant, and I will own that, right? I'll always
Yep.
own when I'm wrong because that's when you learn. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like that's when I do live in the moment, and that's a big problem. Um,
Big.
but I'll always own when I'm wrong. I didn't
Yeah.
have guys transferring back, not like this, right? I just and granted, I've been raised by the system of college football we all have been a part of. But I
That's
did a
right.
video earlier today, Jake, and I asked the question, can you remember a situation that is analogous to what we just saw with Caden Proctor and all them? You know
Oh
what?
no,
I
man.
do remember this conversation, William. I do remember this conversation now. And one of the things, and William, you may remember this. I always said the Caden Proctor one was a little bit different to me because whenever he said he was transferring, it's because he was homesick. And I remember
Yeah.
specifically my take being, hey, if you're homesick, that's one I can at least understand, right? Like
Yeah.
that is a reason to transfer as opposed to, oh, it's not the best opportunity. Like homesick was different. Now, whether that was the case, I don't know or not, but I do remember that conversation, William. Thank you so much for that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I'm okay with guys coming back. I do think it's just. I think the whole thing, though, in general, is pretty wild, right? I think that transfer portal stuff is just so crazy with what's going on. I believe maybe you get one of them, but and this is not necessarily a transfer portal situation based on what I was told last night, based on the rules. Because if you you coming back and it's outside of your conference, you don't got to sit out, doesn't count like towards the transfer portal knock. I don't
And
know.
then I'll look it up. There was a court case, and the judicial put in something that stated that kids could transfer as many times as they wanted, and the NCAA could not enforce that 1 year
Dude,
suspension. Let me look that up.
That's insane. That's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. You know, like I that would be the one thing. Like, how can you transfer? So every year you could just go find a new school until you fit. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy to me.
So U.S. District Judge John Preston Bailey in Northern West Virginia issued the order against the NCAA from enforcing the transfer rule. A lawsuit filed by West Virginia and 6 other states alleged the rules waiver process violated federal We come back to the federal antitrust lawsuit. Now, important to note that this was a 14-day temporary restraining order against the NCAA. My thing is this: if they could do that before, why can't they do that now? In the video I talked today, Jake, and I asked this question, or I said this statement. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
The NCAA is not acting, and everybody's like, why isn't the NCAA doing anything? It's because they're acting out of self-preservation. And I know that sounds insane to say, hey, we're going to sit on our hands in favor of because if they do anything, they're going to get sued. Like, people are waiting for them to say, no, you can't transfer. That way we're going to be like, oh, I can't? Cool.
Yeah.
Here's the lawsuit. You've just been served. See you in court. They don't want that. They have way too much on their plate already. The NCAA cannot enforce their own rules because they don't have any leverage.
That's just that's wild. Like, okay, so then like this whole thing of like how it went about and the way they went about this is crazy to me from a standpoint of like, okay, so now we want to make sure that we protect ourselves, and we want to protect it. Again, it all comes down to what? Money and control. Like, it's just ridiculous, man. Like, this sport was not made for money and control.
But how much more money? Like, this is the thing I don't
I know.
get, Jake. This is what makes me so mad. If that was your goal, how much more money could you have made by being proactive and remaining in control? Like, yeah, you might not have made, I'm just going to throw out arbitrary numbers, right? I said earlier, I'm real dumb. So when I think of numbers, they have to be in increments of 5 or 10. If they're not in increments of 5 or 10, I'm not your guy, right? Yeah. So let's say that they were making $150 million a year. But now they're only making $100 million a year, but they get to maintain control of college football indefinitely. Right now, we're staring at the end of the NCAA. Their own ineptitude has caused everything. That's why I have no sympathy. I hate what's happening to college football. I have no sympathy for the NCAA because you saw it. And Jake, they have the foresight that the good Lord above granted this Topo Chico bottle. I don't know if y'all know, but Topo Chico is not exactly known for its foresight. It's known for being delicious, sparkling water. That's it.
That's good. But no, but that's the point. Like, you you get this opportunity to do things the right way. You know, like, how many times is you know, it's like God puts things in people's lives to give them an opportunity to do the right thing. And how many times in history does man fail? Right? Like, and this is a unique one from a standpoint of like, we're just talking football. We're not talking anything crazy, but what is crazy is it does affect a lot of people's lives. And that's where it's like, you know, we need to get back on a page of just doing things for the right reasons, and not necessarily for reasons that are always self-beneficial or to preserve power for one thing here or one thing there. Like, do it because it's right. You know, like, just do the right thing. And that's where I get frustrated with the NCAA. It's like, it's how long are you guys just going to sit there and take that and not really come across in a way? You know, I saw it this year, and I think it really showed like these true colors when you have guys, okay, the transfer portal is all these approved of transfer stuff. You have the guy at North Carolina, the wide receiver, who they make sit for the whole year, and he had a legitimate case.
Oh, I talked about that so many times.
Pisses me off,
I
dude.
was irate. I even talked about it on Bleacher Report. I didn't care.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 100. Like, it's just messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about a North Carolina game, Jake, and I went on a rant
Hmm.
against the NCAA, and I'm like, so you won't let Tez Walker play?
Yeah.
Why? Like, name.
So it was crazy to me.
You hit
It's
the nail on
crazy.
the head. Shout out to Austin French for becoming a member. Jake, you hit the nail on the head where you should always do something because you believe it's the right thing, right? You believe it's the
100%.
right thing. But
Yeah.
do you want to know where I get ultimately so frustrated that I will just rant and rave about the NCAA? It's they're not even good at being greedy,
Hmm.
right? Like you're not
Hmm.
even good at being bad at being a governing organization. You're not even good at it. Like
No, man.
I don't understand how we got here. You didn't do the right thing. You wanted more money, and you're not even good at that. What can you do? That's what I want to know. The NCAA, what can you do? That's the
Yep.
question I need answered.
I trust me. I'm a problem solver typically, right? But these are the sort of problems that are created by such I, what do we say? Greed here completely,
I think so.
100%. It's created by greed, one of the 7 deadly sins. Okay, like in the end of the day, like I'll tell you this, like this is the sort of stuff that you get these people in positions who have been there for so long. I mean, shoot, we could jump into politics and start talking that way too, but we're not doing that on Bama Football on YouTube because this is about football, and I am not getting into that. But I'll tell you, like it's just like when will we get back to the core root of like the what God put us here to do, right? When do we get to be here to do the right thing, to treat people with respect, to make sure everybody thrives, not just an individual group thrives, right? So in football, it's funny how it comes down to football because football is such a fundamental part of life in the weirdest ways because it teaches you lessons that we could never. It's easy to articulate and easy to build off of in your life, right? That's what sports are for. So I don't know, man. Like it's just nuts. I hate that stuff.
Ontario Moore with a great comment right here. He says, I bet the coach Saban has a big I told y'all so face while drinking a Coca-Cola right now. Jake, I got so upset whenever people were on Twitter and the
Hmm.
laziest. This is what I hate. I
Yeah.
really I should have approached it differently. I should have just quote tweeted people and sent them an invite onto my channel and been like, okay, you want to talk about
Hmm.
this? How about you and I have a sit down and we can debate in front of everybody? Like I'm good for it. If you want to debate about this, let's debate about this. I'll be your guinea pig.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
volunteer as tribute. The laziest
Hmm.
arguments I saw was Saban made 70 million or 170 million dollars like and he's
Okay.
taught and the you know the thing that kills me? There's a Twitter
Mm.
account and they themselves in their bios say they work for a college football team in the graphics department. But they're
Okay.
like, "Oh, well, Nick Saban, like, it's just crocodile tears. It's coming from him. He profited so much." And I was like, "Buddy,
What?
you don't realize that you have just cut yourself out of the equation. Your basic premise, because the way I build arguments, right? We get down to the
Hmm.
core root of your argumentation. The core root of
100%.
that position is if you have profited from a system that you deem to be bad, you cannot have an opinion about the system. And then I look at your bio and I'm like, oh, so you're employed by a college team? So why are you talking? You yourself have said you are eliminated from being able to contribute any discourse to this because if Nick Saban can't talk about it because he profited from this environment, you're profiting from the environment. I don't care if you're
Right.
profiting 2 pennies or $10 million. You're profiting. You have cut.
Yeah.
This is why I hate bad arguments because people are not, I don't know what it is, but they will argue against their own favor because they don't
Hmm.
like somebody and they get to illogical talking points. It
100%.
is, oh, it's infuriating, Jake. Oh,
Oh,
this
trust
makes
me.
me so angry.
It's crazy when you it's a funny point you bring up that people get so pissed off because over somebody that their emotions cloud their judgment and they don't actually see how their argument is actually against themselves. It's such a weird. You see this all the time with people commenting online or they get in like a like they, I just saw this on a video. Do you guys remember that guy Seth Justice, the guy who had to get booted out of the chat, undefeated chat? Well, he commented on the YouTube videos that me and Kyle did, and there's like a paragraph And I'm like, and he does multiple of them. But it's funny to listen to, like, read them and then realize when you're reading them, you're like, you are like fighting yourself here. You're reversing your argument back on yourself. This is so strange. Like, I've never seen, well, I've seen it, but it's just these people who, like, it's almost like, man, I know you must have some extreme passion for it, because those emotions are getting hot, right?
Yeah.
You're not thinking.
I just need to put a blanket tweet out there and be like, hey, if you feel some type of way, come on the channel. We'll talk.
Yeah.
George saying
100.
Kool-Aid ran a 4.4740. Ooh, that's gonna make him some money.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
I
gonna make
like
him
it.
some money.
Yeah. These are all, I mean, these are precise times too. So I like that. That's great, man. It'd be interesting to hear what the other 40s are too. The thing is, though, too, like with running these, and we kind of talk about it with, like, Xavier Worthy running like that 4.21 40, like extremely fast. But how does that translate to the field, right? Like, it's one thing to run in a single direction with no pads on, and I know we do this for a measurement standpoint to see, like, this explosiveness, to see these guys' athletic ability. Sometimes I feel like there's almost too much weight gets put into some of these, like, combine results, though.
I agree.
Like, I mean, I've seen guys who are blazers step on the field, and their playing speed is a completely different level. I mean, Xavier's still extremely fast, and, as long as he's catching the ball, I mean, yeah, he's good. But your playing speed is different than combine stats. Combine stats give you maybe a baseline,
And to your point, I've also seen the reverse of that. I've seen people have a terrible 40, and then you turn on the film and they're leaving people in the dust.
That's right.
And it's like, okay, how?
Yeah.
I love that point. Play speed is much more important.
Yeah. I mean, and you think about that too. Like, this is why guys go after schools that are having such success. So you look at, like, back in the day with USC, right? Everybody from USC, you could be a second string guy, you would get drafted when USC was, like, kind of dominating the realm, right? Alabama, that's been the case with Nick Saban and the players here at Alabama. Like, you could go to Alabama and you could get drafted and maybe only play as a second string guy. But what they want to say is, like, these guys know how to win. They have a mindset, and people don't realize how impactful that is within the locker room, within the culture, right? Of making sure you have a winner's mindset. I'm recruiting 2 kids, right? You recruit one kid over here, 4-star. You recruit one kid over here, 5-star. Okay, all right. How good? What's the separation? Number 1, between their playing ability. Number 2, like, all right, they're pretty close in turn. Okay, the next part of that too is, like, we look at their GPA, like, how smart are these guys, right? They're pretty close. But one comes from a program that's never won before, maybe only a few games a season, and one comes from a championship high school that has 4 rings. Which one am I going to take? I'm going to take the championship high school, whether it's the 4-star or 5-star, doesn't matter. Okay. That's now, I'm not thinking about stars. What I'm thinking about is that mindset, and the kid knows how to compete and knows how to win. If you know how winners win, DeBoer says it perfectly. Winners win because that's what winners do.
Yep.
They want winners. That's what we're trying to say. And that's, the same thing goes into these NFL teams when they're looking at players and doing evaluations.
Home Sweet says Dallas 40 was faster than a bunch of the receivers and running backs. Very true. I will say this about Dallas's 40, though. There's a piece of film out there, and Jake, you've probably seen it. Whenever he dropped into coverage, he was keeping up with Malik Neighbors.
Oh,
so his 40 time is one that's like, no, that's his game speed. Like, I know that's crazy. That's his game speed. Like, that's how fast he is. He's
100.
Ridiculous. I said this to the Undefeated a while ago, Jake. I don't think I've had the opportunity to say it to you. I have a good friend who's a great Texas Longhorns content creator.
Okay. Cool.
And so whenever everything was happening for the combine, he was like, man, I'm super excited for Braswell. He's like, y'all's edges that you've been putting out have been ridiculous, from Will and Braswell and Dallas Turner. He's like, but he said, and this is going to sound like blasphemy, what he asked me. He's like, do you think that Dallas is like, how do you equate him to the NFL to Will Anderson? Because Will Anderson was the phenom. He's like, but when I think of Dallas Turner, I think of your 80s nasty edge rusher who's just like, oh no, I'm built for the NFL. And like, And it made me think, I was like, you know what? I think Dallas is someone who was super successful in college. I think he's going to be more successful in the NFL.
It's true.
It's a freak.
100%. Once you put him on that, especially a field where they have more to focus on, and not saying they don't, like teams don't versus Alabama, like with other players, but you put him in the NFL realm, like everybody has to focus. You can't like just take away and try. Yeah, you got your Aaron Donalds, right? Who you do have to focus on. But for the most part, you got to kind of separate that because everybody can play. Everybody's the best at something. So it gives those guys like Turner, for example, one of those opportunities to even excel even further with his game. And we'll see that. I think you will see that pop out. I mean, the guy is he is good, 100% good. But you know what, Ty? I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think anybody else is jumping on today. So or at least for right now.
It's 11:30. I think everybody, the pro day is going on. If I'm not mistaken, it's being carried by ESPN or SEC Network. I think we answer one more question, and then we get out of here because William, I apologize. We were just in a flow state, and so I was just kind of letting that happen. But you have asked this question multiple times, and I always champion everybody. Ask your questions. We genuinely love to answer them. Both of us, Ty, Jake, do y'all think Proctor coming back is good or bad? Straight up opinion. Jake, do you want to take this first, or do you want me to?
No, go ahead. Why don't you go first? I'll finish up.
I'll be very short and sweet. I am basing my answer off of the fact that the team had him on. Some of the guys on the team had him on spring break with them, meaning if they're good with it, then I'm good with it because they're the team. You know what I mean? And if they're like, hey, no, a lot happened. The GOAT retired. It was not a normal situation. Things got crazy. We welcome you back. If they welcome him back, then I welcome him back because I'll say this. It does go to answer a question, William, and answers are incredibly important. Jake, what are you thinking?
I think him coming back is a good thing. And my opinion on this is the fact that when you look at Proctor and you look at what he went through, right, from a talent standpoint, 100%, as long as the guy's putting in the work. I think it's good, though, because I do think the only reason he would come back, and you have to think of this is from a psychological standpoint, the only reason he would come back after that, because that's a lot of, take a lot of heat for saying you got some mental stuff going on, you miss home and you leave. But it takes even more guts. Coach Sean brought this up last night a little bit. It takes even more guts to walk back in and say, I made the wrong choice. I want to come back and I want to be the best I can be. Okay, so that right there tells me that if he's willing to do that, it's because the players are supporting him. Okay, because this is not, I will tell you that there is probably a decision made within the leaders of that locker room and making sure everybody was good with it for him to roll back in. And I think that it was also from the standpoint that those friendships and those bonds were kept close. But I also think from the coaching standpoint, the coaches have made their evaluation and agreed with it. And I think the expectation is that the standard's just a little bit higher for him, that he's going to have to build that trust, that he's going to have to put that work in. He missed the significant part of bonding experience with the fourth quarter program, right? With making sure the whole team's intact. So that is a part for him that he needs to come in and be a part of that, glue himself into that bond, right? And the guys accept him back in, and that bond is strong based on his work ethic, based on his mindset, and based on the expectation that you should expect nothing, but you need to earn everything.
Love it.
Right? We're going to go Yellowstone style on that.
It's crazy.
Right there, dude.
I haven't seen an episode of Yellowstone. I know several of the people on the show.
Really?
There was actually a kid. He was, God, I say a kid. He'd have been a teenager, I think, in the show. Blonde-haired kid. I don't know if you remember. I think he was one of the ranch hands. Younger guy.
Yeah.
Well, his name is Cade McCutcheon. I used to babysit Cade. He lived right down the street from me. Unbelievable on a horse. Like this kid is great on a horse. But a lot of the people in that show, they're obviously actors, but a lot of them are from the horse industry. And I know a good amount of the people who have been featured on that show. Actually,
Dude,
it was
that's
crazy.
awesome.
I think it was All My Pretty Horses or something. My mom
Mm,
knew the lady who trained all the horses for that movie.
dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is, man, that is wild. That is wild. Like that's cool, man. I like Yellowstone. I like that show. I mean, it's good stuff. But the truth, yeah, jumping back though, real quick, like that's the truth. Like that it's kind of like you have to have that hard mindset, and Ty, you brought up a really good point, like working whether it's a ranch, a farm, right? And you're working that lifestyle of putting in that hard work. Like you don't get to go out there and have expectations to the roof. You need to go out there and make sure that every single day you're putting in that work in, and it's like you don't think you deserve anything. You're just going to work and work and work until you get, God's blessing for whatever it is you are going to get, right? And I think that's where Caden's at with this situation. Like you have to, man. So I'm good with it as long as, like you said, as long as everybody's on board and he has that mindset that he knows what he has to do to be the best he can be. You know what I'm saying? So
Love it.
but
And let's look at
sweet.
this. We did a joint show.
I know,
And we
man.
even had a little bit of a Thai story time in there talking about the Ellis. I've been teasing it, and it will come. Jake, I've been teasing. I've been telling my stories from the ranch, right? And one
Oh,
of
dude, I
them
love it.
is when I was really little.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize what I was doing, but it happened. I played chicken with a cottonmouth, and I
Oh,
won.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
won. Take that, snake. I
Yeah, that's
won.
beastly right there, man. I used to catch the rattlesnakes, but I didn't realize there were rattlesnakes in Montana. But it's all good.
Yep. Apparently, the snake was so mad by the time I was done with it, my dad had to shoot it because he couldn't get close enough with like an
That
axe
is
or something.
wild. That
So
is, I cannot believe that is pretty sweet though. I mean, there you go. Hey, ranch story number one, right? Right? Like you gotta come out with one of those. You
and,
gotta
and
start
I'll
through.
tell the whole story, but I'll tell you how it happened, and then we'll get out of here. My dad used to do a foreign exchange program, right,
Uh-huh.
where people would come and learn the horse business from him. Because before my father passed, he'd been to 32 foreign countries, helping them establish the
Whoa.
horse industry. I mean, he's got crazy stories.
Yeah,
Like
that's pretty
he
legit.
had crazy stories. But
Hmm.
gentleman from Australia came over and was at the ranch with us for 2 years. Well,
Hmm.
before he came over to work on the ranch, he was working with Steve Irwin in Australia. And so Jason, the guy's name, he finds out
Whoa,
that I'm a massive crocodile hunter fan. So when I was knee
dude.
high to a grasshopper, I got a care
Yeah.
package straight up from Australia from the crocodile hunter with a signed poster, a signed bobblehead, a bunch of crocodile hunter shirts. But because of that, I thought I was Crocodile Dundee. So I tried when I was in diapers to pick up a 6 foot long rat snake, and that thing whipped around and hit me in the nose. And I went back after it, but I was not a bright one, right? How I'm here is anybody's guess.
Dude, that's pretty sweet story though. Man, I love that. Dude, that's wild, man. We got to get into more Ty stories too. Me and him got to do this again for sure. I hope you guys liked
This
it
was
today.
great.
We had a lot of fun. I'm gonna make sure Ty, you get it. We throw on that theme music for him real quick.
Yeah, let's throw on the theme music. We'll get out of here. Y'all enjoy the pro day. Enjoy your day. We got night shows coming up. They're going to absolutely kill it.
Hope you all enjoyed this morning with me and Ty. Around the Table Sports. Make sure you follow them, all different platforms. For me, I'm just on Twitter, Coach_J Mayer. All right. Really appreciate it today. Thank you, Ty. I appreciated your time. Thank you for hanging with me all day, man.
Train wreck. I bet Ty dips. You'd be wrong, but that's not the first time I've gotten that. No.
Trust me, it's hard for me not to do it while I'm on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow. Once again, I believe there's more great content coming your way this evening. You know how they do over here. They're at Pro Day right now. Kyle and Smook over there posted a picture. Kyle looks halfway blind. We need to get him some sunglasses. They're going to have
I love it.
You see the picture I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to jump on and look at it.
You need to look at it. We need to get him. We need to crowdsource him some Alabama sunglasses. Be on the lookout for that tomorrow or tonight. I apologize. Be on the lookout for Jake and I back again tomorrow. We'll figure out a way, man. We'll do a little bit of an intersection again because this was a great time.
It was a lot of fun. Like today was it was a blast. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you run those thumbs up, subscribe, become a fan funder, check out our exclusive content here at Bama Football on YouTube. And also remember, tonight we're going to jump back onto, I think I'm at 6. Yes, I think I'm at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I'll be back on. I think we will see Coach Smook on tonight. I think we'll see Coach Sean and potentially Coach Jay too. So going to be a fun night. We're excited. But thank you for tuning in with us today. Ty, you're the man. Love you, Ty.
Roll Tide, everybody. And until this evening, we'll see you then.